Oh boy, my favorite show. Boring. We need to be mad. We need to be angry. We're thinking too much around here, guys. How dare you? That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh my god, dude. That's so big, dude. We gotta have a better ground game to overpower the corporate media structure and the propaganda. I'm right on the polling. I'm right on that. That's undisputed in my mind. That's undisputed in my mind. Politics is more complicated than that. Waging political capital in an effective way. Boring. Politics is more complicated than that. That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh boy, my favorite show. Boring. We need to be mad. We need to be angry. We're thinking too much around here, guys. How dare you? That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh my god, dude. That's so big, dude. We gotta have a better ground game to overpower the corporate media structure and the propaganda. I'm right on the polling. I'm right on that. That's undisputed in my mind. That's undisputed in my mind. Politics is more complicated than that. Waging political capital in an effective way. Boring. Politics is more complicated than that. That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh boy, my favorite show. Boring. We need to be mad. We need to be angry. We're thinking too much around here, guys. How dare you? That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh my god, dude. That's so big, dude. We gotta have a better ground game to overpower the corporate media structure and the propaganda. I'm right on the polling. I'm right on that. That's undisputed.
Spencer, thank you so much. Again, Spencer is always here. Spencer will always be here.
Politics is more complicated than that.
He was born from
Waging political capital
pragmatism.
in an effective way.
What's up, Ian? Can't stay long. Hope you get through work all right
Politics is more
after your
complicated
break. I hit my knee. I hate this
That
desk.
is so cool. That is so fun.
Is it true you should like a stream before liking? Or you should watch it like a couple minutes before liking? I don't know. Oh my goodness. Who won this debate? Yeah, starting soon. We're starting soon. Very true.
Oh boy, my favorite show.
We're soon starting? I don't know. You tell me.
Boring. We need to be mad. We need to be angry. We're thinking too much around here, guys. How dare you? That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh my god, dude. That's so big, dude.
Did anybody listen to the new Kanye and Drake albums that came out? We should have Kendrick Lamar coming soon. J. Cole already released. Tyler, the Creator, released. Um, I think Drake's album, For the People Who Care, is really uninspired and dull and repetitive, and it's the same sound he's had for the past like 7 years. Kanye's album felt unfinished, but it was cool how it experimented. There's some good ambient styles on there. There's not many drums. But the way he put everything together, I think, was all right. It needs to be cut down though. Donda felt very unfinished. If I had to rank my albums so far this year, really quickly, I'd say Tyler, the Creator, is my favorite. J. Cole's my second favorite. I probably put Drake below Donda. And, you know, that's just how it is. Of course, a lot of people like the Drake stuff because they want the pop songs. Drake is a pop singer. He's not a rapper. Just remember that. Dab. Who won this? You're doing the weed? That's illegal. That makes people violent. Makes everybody turn to violence if you do the weed. A Donda out of 10. A little bit of rap. You like Linkin Park? New metal. Interesting genre right there. A random recommendation. I only listen to normie people because I'm a loser. Because I'm a loser. Okay, so debate review. Destiny versus Lauren Southern. I know people have been mad at Destiny for irresponsibly platforming Lauren Southern, but now he is going to fight her after playing League with her. Now he's going to push back against her ideas. Finally.
January 6th was just a one-off thing, and that was Trump's little splurge, and it was like, oh, whatever.
On January 6th. This is a really hard topic to debate, especially when it comes to regular people who are not political commentators, because in order to sell the importance of this event, you really need to go into good psychological arguments, because nothing catastrophic really did happen on January 6th. If you look at it at face value, a bunch of dumb people, you know, stormed into the Capitol. That's all it looked like. If you don't have a background in caring about like democratic theory, or if you don't look at Trump's officials calling for a coup like what happened in Myanmar, if you don't know this stuff, you probably don't have any reason to care about what happened on January 6th, other than CNN and MSNBC saying Trump, Trump tried to overthrow our government, which he did try to overthrow our democratic process. But it's a hard point to argue.
Then I would just be saying, like, who the f cares? Why are we still talking about Trump? But the problem is, right now in the United States, half our Republican Party doesn't think the election was legitimate.
Yo, Destiny's editor, oh my god. August with the 21 Savage, J. Cole beat in the background as an entrance to the video. That is swag. That's some good stuff right there.
The damage is lasting. And if you want to draw like a calculation for like, oh, well, let's just calculate like one thing and try to figure out like, first of all, you're comparing like the BLM rights, which a lot of their complaints are more rooted in fact than Trump's complaints, which is that there is a lot of unfavorability in our criminal justice system towards minorities.
That's the thing though. The long-lasting effects on our democracy, normal people are not going to care about that, dude. If a gun goes off and it doesn't hit anybody, or like if a tree falls in the middle of the forest, nobody hears it. Or whatever, nobody cares because they don't have a reason to.
Even if you don't agree that it's as intense as it is, there's way more fact-based arguments there than there are with the election was rigged and stolen by like, machines that were created by the zombie of Hugo Chavez.
All right, how's it going today?
You're in Las Vegas, Spencer. Have a good time.
Pretty good. How are you going today?
Good, good. I stayed up late reading through a bunch of case files from January 6th to make sure I was ready for this. Yeah, they're pretty interesting. So first, I don't know if you watched my video I did the other day just about the FBI update, essentially saying they couldn't find any solid evidence that there was any plan for an insurrection. I think you generally agree with that statement, right?
My understanding is that the FBI said that 95% of the individuals didn't seem to have been organized, but it was relatively organic. But I do believe there have been a few people charged with conspiracy. Now, there haven't been any convictions yet, but there have been a couple related to the Oath Keepers that were charged with actual conspiratorial charges. So they had been like planning things in advance. They had like code names. They'd communicated with each other and everything.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of the problems of why people misunderstand those charges and the whole insurrection statement actually come from prosecutors that were involved in the January 6th indictments coming out and saying they were going to get, or they had charges or strong evidence for motives to incite a rebellion, which is much different than conspiracy. So obviously motives to incite a rebellion or to take over the country is way, way, way heavier of a charge than just conspiracy, which in some cases, when they're talking about conspiracy in these documents, they're just talking about like general protest planning, right?
Yeah, has anybody been charged with a rebellion charge? Has that been a thing?
No. So this is what's so funny is when I was reading through the cases last night, and this is where we may disagree, is I think a bunch of these charges are completely trumped up for political reasons. And if you asked me a week ago, I wouldn't have said that because I have not spent...
Okay, everything in our legal system is about intentionality and like outcome. You don't just look at what happened to settle how legal proceedings are going to go. If you have a Trump supporter who literally did randomly walk into the Capitol, you still need to look at like she said, it's trumped up. Of course, the political reasons that people are doing this, that's going to be looked at. It's going to be a somewhat political trial because it literally was spurred by people who are like, I want to overturn this election, or I don't believe this election is settled, or I'm going to make sure we can stop Mike Pence from doing the wrong thing. Of course, that's going to happen in a legal setting. It's going to be trumped up because the entire thing is going to be overt. Like, it's going to be that is the topic of discussion right here.
Had not spent the time looking into them. So a bunch of these prosecutors are super giddy about this being a very popular political case. They are like, if I get one of these January 6th charges below my belt and people see that I've got...
You can't say that. You can't say that with any...
For it, especially if they're a big name, like an Owen Schroyer or something. Or
they just want to get it because it's a big trial.
For Proud Boy, then that's going to be like on my resume, right? And so all these prosecutors got super giddy with the media. And one guy actually went on 60 Minutes and said, we have strong evidence, a ton of evidence showing that we're going to be able to get these people or a few of these people for incitement of rebellion. And the DOJ got so pissed off with these prosecutors going and telling the media all this stuff. They actually almost put a gag order on the entire case or the entire indictment process because all of these prosecutors were going out and just making fools of them on statements that were completely untrue. So as you said, absolutely zero charges for inciting a rebellion, none. And even their conspiracy charges are falling through.
So I haven't heard of any conspiracy charges falling through yet. I don't know how.
Well, we can go through that.
Yeah, sure. In terms of the incitement to rebellion, I don't know what people have been saying in terms of like going I don't care what people go to the media with. I'm more interested to see what charges are actually filed because people go to the media and say dumb and stupid shit all the time. For a really good example of that, we can look at Rudy Giuliani, who in front of the media was like the big dog, and then in front of a judge was the tiny dog, because a lot of the charges that he said he was going to bring publicly were way different than what actually got filed in court. So yeah, I'm sure there were some.
Bro, the level of memery we currently live in, it's that meme with the cuddly looking dog versus the tough looking dog, and Destiny just like described it like very quickly, and we all know what he meant. That's kind of 2021 for you.
People going on to media saying like, oh, we're gonna get these guys on fucking rebellion or crazy shit. But as far as I'm aware, not very many charges were filed related to conspiracy. The vast majority, I think, were like disorderly conduct and trespassing and stuff like that, which sounds like, depending on if you're on video or not, it sounds like they're actually pretty easy charges to nail somebody on. Like the Owen guy or whatever, I think was charged with, there were a few, they were all misdemeanor charges, but I think it was like disorderly conduct and trespassing or whatever, which seems like, I mean, if you have them on video doing it, I mean, we can say that like this is for political reasons, but I guess we'll see how it plays out in court. I feel like the DOJ would get pretty upset if a whole bunch of prosecutors were like running to file bullshit charges that weren't going to stick. I feel like they're probably going to...
They are.
Well,
they're very upset.
Very upset that charges are being filed, or very upset that people are going to the media and saying crazy shit?
No, very upset that the actual charges being filed are like super embarrassingly bad. So
wait,
here,
what is the source on that? Because I'm curious now, because I haven't heard that yet. Yeah.
So let me just read you. This is a Reuters article. If it turns out prosecutors misunderstood the meaning of certain text messages, that would not be a small error, Ferrara says. This could color the way the judge sees this case going forward and impact the outcomes of everything from plea deals to motions to dismiss, Ferrara added. So this article is all about all of these different text messages, which I'm not even joking. Like in the court cases, some of the defenses are my client meant that in Minecraft, basically. Like they were taking the piss, and it actually like held up. Because they found out the people sending the messages. So there was, okay, I'll just give you an example of case, and I'm going to send you this article right now and then give you an example of one of these cases where the charges were just so stupid compared to what actually happened. I just linked that to you.
Wait, hold on. Give me like 20 seconds real quick. I'm reading this Reuters article you're talking about. 1 second.
Okay. Read the Oath Keepers guy, Thomas Caldwell. He was one of the big ones that played a leadership role in the Oath Keepers, was planning to trap politicians in tunnels and gas them all with his 2 co-conspirators that... prosecutors wanted to have arrested as well, and all of it fell through as bullshit.
This is good that Destiny's doing this now in debates. So instead of, for example, like VAUSH would probably just fire back with something with like a rhetoric rebuttal. But Destiny here is actually going into each article and each source and dissecting what the actual information is to prove his point, instead of just trying to get like a own based on what he says and how he says it. He's going to base it off of the facts and just make her look dumb by debasing her entire base of information that she is, this fake narrative that she's building up.
Okay, so the Reuters one was about how people are worried that, again, I'm looking just for nobody's been charged with like sedition. A charge of sedition, meaning incitement of a rebellion, has not been brought against any of the more than 400 people arrested to date. The most serious charges have been assault, conspiracy, and obstruction of Congress or law enforcement. Okay. And then, oh wait, yeah, sorry, I Googled this while you were reading it. Okay, go for it. And then what's the next thing?
Yeah, so, well, I just want that Thomas Caldwell one, so retired U.S. Navy officer from Virginia, they claimed he had a leadership role within the Oath Keepers, that he was plotting to destroy parts of the Capitol, and they accused Caldwell of having 2 co-conspirators that were helping him, telling him to seal members of Congress in tunnels and turn on the gas. And prosecutors were asking for the judge to have his co-conspirators detained as well. And it was later found out that Caldwell was not even a dues-paying member of the Oath Keepers. They lacked the evidence to even prove he was at the Capitol that day. And as for the Facebook messages, the 2 guys that were apparently his co-conspirators helping him plan and get people in the tunnels were 60 miles away from the Capitol. Caldwell never even responded to them, and they were basically just taking the piss. And so, like, that was just one of those big...
Bringing up one failed lead with this entire case isn't debunking anything that she, like, brought up before. It's not proving her point. Like, okay, even if they had one person who they thought was there, and they did more investigating, and it's, like, investigations or whatever, and they found, oh, this person wasn't here. Like, okay, these people are involved in radical organizations. Radical organizations played a big part in what happened. So it might be worth looking into, even if like one of the things that somebody claimed it was wrong. That doesn't debase anything about the entire of what actually happened.
Conspiracy charges that they had, and there's multitudes of these where they are just so desperate to get someone. They're so desperate to have these charges stick on someone. They're just throwing everything at the wall, and it's falling apart and making an embarrassment of the whole process.
I wouldn't call it an embarrassment. I mean, this is how the process works, right? Like. People will try to see what they can charge, they can see what they can make stick. In the discovery process, you go back and forth and you see what's there and what's not. And then sometimes at the end of the day, like some of the evidence is too flimsy. The DA says, we're probably not going to get a case here. And then like you drop some of the charges. Like that's...
No, I did not watch this debate yet. I'm not going to be streaming it all for like the next like week. So I thought I'd get the free content in,
Just how the process works, no?
Right. But a lot of it is getting to the point where it's so clearly, and this is, I mean, anything with the DOJ, any of these indictment process, of course, they're going to have a political swing to them anyways. But when I say they're like trumped up charges, it's like they are desperately trying to get people on really, really tiny things, like Owen Schroyer being on the steps, that they normally would not go after people for, just because... I mean, to be fair, there is something...
To be clear, real quick, because you keep saying trumped up charges, but I don't see any of that. Like, because the charges that I'm aware of so far, and even the Reuters article you sent me, are all like relatively conservative. Like, I think the worst charges that I've heard of that were filed were like assault charges against some of the officers, which I don't think are that insane, at least on some of the videos I saw. And I don't know who specifically was charged, but I don't think there are many trumped up charges. It wouldn't surprise me that for some of the 400 people charged, that for some, or maybe even a decent number of these people, that they go through and they're like, okay, well, this video isn't the best evidence, or we can't really prove this as much, and then you drop some of the charges. But this is like how our legal system works. Like, it's not like...
If you look at the people going to the media and you read media about the legal process, then you're gonna think everything's trumped up because you're reading it through a particular lens. Unless if you're just reading dry court documents or whatever, which she isn't doing. She's bringing up articles and she's like paraphrasing them and barely reading them. And like I said before, Destiny actually going in and looking at the actual information instead of doing a VAUSH, because VAUSH, as much as I think he's pretty decent, he would rather just do like rhetorical practices and try to talk his way out of situations instead of solving or getting to core arguments or positions or like facts on the situations.
People are like being convicted and then like it was overturned 10 years later. Like, this is part of the process. As for Owen, I mean, a lot of our justice system is built around discretionary application of the law. You know, not everybody is charged 100% all the time with everything. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if Owen got charged as much as they could, even for stuff that seems kind of minor, because this is a guy that was like on air, you know, like encouraging people to be like pretty extreme, like prior to this. And I'm sure they're probably going to factor that in when it comes to like the judge evaluating the case, or being like, you know, like, okay, well, you were trespassing, you're getting the full whatever for trespassing. But again, even for Owen, those were all misdemeanor charges. It's not like he's being like charged with like attempted murder. I don't even think he's being charged with conspiracy. I don't believe.
Yeah. Well, like that's what's so interesting with Owen's case is they do mention the statements he made on social media, but they don't actually attempt to go for any sort of charge based on that of incitement. And I think that is because they've gotten a bit gun shy with putting you know, charges that are overblown or they can't quite get.
Well, incitement.
So it is to me, it is still a technicality being on the steps.
I mean, if it's wrong, if it's against the law, it's against the law.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
it is against the law.
Incitement is really hard, and it would surprise me if they tried to go on incitement for any of the media figures. Even because, like, even when I was covering this, even in the prime while it was going on, I think a lot of things that people said were like, this was clearly incitement. But when it comes from a legal point of view, if you've got people in media that are giving messages and then you call that incitement, you are setting really scary precedents there. And even for Trump, I don't even know if I was coming for Trump being charged, even though all of it was clearly incitement.
Yeah, for BLM. For example, if I forget her name, but if a Democratic politician says we need to get into the streets, something bad's happening in our government, we need to stop this from happening. If the police are not going to be held accountable, us, the people, will hold them accountable. We have to go march on the capital of this city, or we have to go protest in front of this police precinct. If you say that as a Democratic whatever, congresswoman or whatever, or you know, whoever you are in media maybe, and then something crazy happens, should that person be charged with like incitement or whatever, or like insurrectionary actions or something like that? Because historically that has happened for a lot of civil rights movements. But a lot of that argument, when it comes to the Capitol versus like BLM protests, is BLM has justifiable and provable systemic reasons for what they're advocating for, and they have actual critiques of the government and how it functions. Whereas the Capitol riot has a bunch of either, you know, sheep who are just following their demagogues, or literal like neo-Nazis who just want to overturn a democratic election. Those two things are a lot different.
But even for Trump, I don't know.
When it comes to legality, that's a really hard line to walk if you're going to be doing that.
Trump, I don't even know if I was coming for Trump being charged, even though all of it was clearly incited by him. But even for Trump, I don't know if I would be comfortable like charging him with incitement to riot, because it's like, well, fuck. Like, how many other things could you say that could be counted as an incitement to riot? Like, I feel like that has to be reserved for literally, like, you're standing outside with a microphone saying, get in there and kill those motherfuckers. Like, it has to be very, very, very clear. Otherwise, that's a huge potential First Amendment case. But other than that, like, I don't really see any like I don't get like all the trumped up charges. Like, it seems like the charges were relatively appropriate, and then for some people, like, the evidence is too scant and they decide not to go forward with it. But I think that's a pretty natural part of like the legal process.
Okay, so what I would say to that is, you know, I agree that if someone, typically these cases are happening where if they can't get proof, they can't even prove they're at the Capitol, they're falling through. But they are very deliberately and meticulously pursuing these cases because of the political circumstances around it. Now, if they broke the law, they broke the law. That's their fault. There are some of these documents I was going through last night where it's like, okay, it's so fucking obvious what you did, dude. Like, one of the guys, I'm trying to remember his name. I think I wrote it down. Oh yeah, Philip Young, for example. If you go through his case documents, he's there's like a clear photo of him taking a knife and just slowly emptying all of these government vehicle tires, just sitting there with his pocket knife going into all the wheels. And he's actually wearing his worker.
Her bringing up this dumb example that has nothing to do with anything at all, like, this literally doesn't matter what she's bringing up. Her doing that and laughing is a defense mechanism. She knows you know, I don't even know why she took this debate. She knows she has no like actual standing here to make any points.
His trade union shirt. So on any other day, lefties would be calling him very based for his actions. But yeah, so there's ones that are just obvious, like, of course. But there's so many in here where it's like, Tammy flew from Ohio and was sitting on her phone and taking pictures, and their evidence is like a photo of her on Facebook saying, I cannot believe what is happening here. I want to go get some pictures inside the Capitol because that's cool. And to me, the big comparison I wanted to make here is if they charge anyone who enters the Capitol on trespassing charges, then it's like,
that's a big thing about the legal footing on these charges. If you literally did walk into the Capitol as part of the crowd, that is much different from if you are somebody who like led people into the Capitol, or if you are a media figure, or if you're a leader of a radical organization that, you know, knowingly went into the Capitol with intent, because intent matters when it comes to the legal process. So like,
okay, well then, you know, sucks to suck, right? But I was really getting into the Kavanaugh protest stuff the other day because, of course, that was also, of course, of a very different nature.
I don't know. I think the constant laughing is ineffective, personally. I don't think it works really well.
Comparing the two, I'm more so
At least
comparing misdemeanor charges because the actions in Kavanaugh.
Yeah, they're like, for example, this guy emptied tires. I mean, he definitely did something wrong, but like,
We're mostly misdemeanor
it's
as
just
well.
kind of dumb.
And how they treat these two different groups based on the political pressures publicly. Do you know much about the Kavanaugh protests from 2018?
I don't know what any of the charges were for that, but it wouldn't surprise me if these were treated differently. And I would say, yeah, obviously they probably should be.
I don't know about that.
So again, like part of this, so people on the left and the right oftentimes don't like this, but I mean, discretion when it comes to charging is a pretty important part of our legal system, and it's exercised at
Destiny's neckbeard at this angle is something to, I don't think you can mess with that. That's something to bestow your eyes upon. That neckbeard game, strong right now, bro.
every single step of our legal system. So, for instance, when a police officer first identifies you,
Who in chat has a neckbeard? Does anybody in chat have a neckbeard?
already exercising discretion. Let's say that he sees you speeding down the street and he's like, all right, am I gonna pull this guy over? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe when he pulls you over, maybe he runs your plates. Maybe he's like, should I write him a ticket? Should I not? Maybe he does it. Maybe he charges you. When you go in front of a judge, he can exercise discretion. Like you can ask for forgiveness. You can ask for, a continuance on the case. You can try to plead to something different. Like there's so much discretion at every level. The factors that are involved at every single level here are going to be incredibly important to how something was charged. So let's say, for instance, me and a group of like 20 friends, we decide to protest. On Capitol Hill. Like, hey, I think Democrats and Republicans or one party they suck. They're not defending workers. And let's say we don't get our permit and we don't do anything right and we go to the steps and we wave around our signs. We're like, yeah, fuck this, fuck this. Like, there's a chance that, say we're all like college kids, there's a chance that security could be called. They come by and they see us and they're like, hey, get the fuck out of here. What the fuck are you guys doing? Maybe they arrest like one or two people that are like in charge of it. But for the most part, they're like, fuck off. But if you showed up with a bunch of people and you were like, we're going to find and get Pence. We're going to fucking get this country back. Fuck this shit, blah, blah, blah. And you're like breaking into the building and shit, or not breaking it, but say you're walking it or whatever. And you're like way more rowdy, way more boisterous, way more disrespectful, way more rude. You might actually see way more charges go to that crowd because it's like, okay, well, you guys are fucking assholes. Now we're going to throw the book at you. But that's like a totally normal part of the entire, that's like a central part of our criminal justice system. So when you talk to me about like Kavanaugh protests, now it might be the case that they went to Capitol Hill and they tried to break in and they wanted to like get like lawmakers and shit. I'm willing to bet they probably didn't. So it wouldn't surprise me if way less charges there were.
What Destiny just described there is the key difference between a protest and a mob. That's pretty much what he described right there.
Then a bunch of people that are breaking down the doors, going in, ranting about getting Pence, walking around through the building trying to find lawmakers, like going through offices. Like, I think that's probably pretty reasonable. I think that's like an okay part of our legal system. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't disagree with you that there's, even just on a basic policing level, for anyone out there, I've been arrested a few times in my life, and almost every time I've never gotten charged. I have no criminal record because every time I'm very polite and just do what the cops say. It's the attitude check they do. How's your attitude? I'm probably gonna, if you're a dick to me, I'm probably gonna throw the book at you. Absolutely. So I
White.
have no doubt that some of that was involved. However, first of all, the idea of running around the halls and going to get Pence, that also came from media statements. They were saying that we're gonna, the guy with the horns, I can't remember his name, people in my chat probably do, they were claiming that he had intentions to go and assassinate politicians. All of that was walked back. So that's just kind of fake news spread. So far, I haven't seen any actual evidence other than the walked back attempt to get Horns guy for that. This is what I find very interesting about the two, is they both had and were missing one piece of what was needed for an insurrection, looking at the information available. In the Kavanaugh protests, they had all of the organized and stated intent. They had literally tweeted out, our goal from the Women's March page, verified, millions of people seeing this, our goal is to storm the Capitol, to take it over, and prevent the Democratic, appointment of Kavanaugh.
Bro, this is so dishonest. Like, she twisted the rhetoric around so much. Saying, like, we are going to go protest and make sure things can't continue until our policy issue is corrected is so much different from we are going to go take over the Capitol and overturn the democratic process. What the hell, dude?
And we will do whatever we can. We like, you go into offices, you take over the Capitol, we'll take it over for days. That is our intent, to overturn the democratic process. But then they had absolutely none of the follow through, like none of the actual ability to succeed at that. Whereas the Capitol riot had all of the follow through, but none of the intent. So they couldn't prove any of the intent that people were going there for the purpose of overthrowing the democratic process. So in that...
Yeah, talking about police interactions as a pretty white woman probably isn't really a strong
case, it's interesting. Do you treat them differently? Do we look at them differently just because one tried to do that but was less successful? And in the case of the Kavanaugh protest, most people wouldn't know this. And this was what was so frustrating to me is misinformation is a bitch, but a lack of information is just as frustrating. And there was a serious lack of information when I was trying to look into the Kavanaugh protests last night. People wouldn't know it, but there were hundreds, some articles even said 1,000 arrests that happened at Kavanaugh. Because I was sitting around thinking, did they arrest no one? Have they applied the law differently to people for Trump protesters versus left-wing protesters? But no, they actually didn't. They arrested hundreds of people at the Kavanaugh protests for misdemeanors. And they just didn't get charged with anything, right? They just, they let them go on the spot and they were processing them all on the spot. Now, there were about 17 women who directly planned to go into a senator, the senator of West Virginia's office and take it over with the explicit intent of making him change his vote or change his
I don't think he looks bored. I think he's reading through the BS. I think he's literally just reading stuff on his computer screen.
His decision on Kavanaugh. And they took over his office. They actually stayed there till 1 a.m. after the police had told them, listen, we're going to charge you with trespassing if you don't leave. And their explicit intent, taking over his office, illegally trespassing, was to threaten him until he changed his vote, that they weren't going to leave. And of those 17 women, I believe 9 were charged with trespassing. A few left before that end time. But to me, looking at that, I could not find anything about them having gotten, actually seeing those.
Yeah, the whole thing was a stretch. And calling Kavanaugh's appointment, like, even if you wanted to prevent that or make a message about that, calling that overthrowing the democratic process is kind of weird.
Charges go through. I'm not sure if the charges were dropped. I'm not sure what happened with them. There was no massive media indictment about how these women were trying to, affect the democratic process through illegal taking over of his office and trespassing. I couldn't find anything in the media. In fact, the only article I could find were sympathetic articles talking about how all of these women believe their arrests were worth it to try to pressure the government. And, once again, that brings up the question, do we treat them differently just because they sucked more in their execution of illegal activities?
Yeah, so things are going to be treated differently, but yeah, of course. But that's not only is that always going to be the case, that probably should be the case. Like, they might have,
in all law, intentionality and outcome matters.
Had a website set up where they
even
had
if
plans
they,
to take
even
over
if they
the
did
government,
say that.
But like the Trump crowd was literally shouting like "Hang Pence, hang Pence." Like
you have that
dude,
video.
They were not saying "Hang Mike Pence" as people were saying in. I think somebody made that joke that they were saying "hang my pants" or whatever, right?
Yeah, because I literally have not seen proof for that. But
hang
if
my
there is,
pants.
I think we watched this on one of the New York Times things. But if somebody wants to, here, hold on one second.
Hang my pants.
Just check it out.
Fuck, I fucked the link up. Let me listen to this real quick. 1 sec to make sure this is the right one. This is what somebody linked me.
Yeah. Like, I don't doubt there was some idiot in the crowd doing that for sure.
Hang my
As
pants.
Officer Eugene Goodman
This is a shorter clip of it, but this sounds more than like one person.
Yep.
wanted to find.
So when you have like a crowd that's that energized and is there for the reasons that they're there, of course it's always going to be treated differently. Like, yeah, I don't know. It seems like I feel like a lot of problems that have happened over the past 2 years with people criticizing government or our justice system, and when I say our, I mean American, because it might be different in Canada, is a lot of people just don't understand how a lot of the institutions work. There is going to be like a lot of like, it sounds crazy, but like even the outfit that you choose to go to court in is going to have a bearing on how the judge treats you. Like,
yeah, think about homicide charges and stuff, like why you do something. If you murder somebody in a bar fight because your girlfriend cheated on you with a dude and now you're both drunk at the bar and you kill him, you're going to get a much lighter sentence than somebody who kills in cold blood. If it's a crime of passion, if it's a crime where you're not in your normal state of mind, like if you kill somebody when you're drunk and your girlfriend cheated on you with them, like that's how the legal system works.
Like for dumb reasons, I've been arrested before, and I've watched a judge throw somebody out of court before because of how they showed up. Like he continued the case and he told them to get the fuck out and to come back when they were ready to like actually like be in court. Like I've seen this happen firsthand, and I'm sure it happens like way more in other places. Yeah, I mean, like when it comes to everything related to the January 6th stuff and how extreme and how crazy that whole event was, Nothing is that surprising to me. I mean, you've said trumped up charges over and over again, but like all the charges are pretty conservative. There were no like dissident or rebellious charges or sedition charges filed. They had 400
like,
plus
we're talking
arrests.
about the conspiracy charges that are all that not all, but you have conspiracy charges that are falling through because they can't even prove some of these people were in the Capitol, and some of these people are sitting in jail right now, right? So that's why it's such a big deal. It's not just like, all right, we'll throw this at the wall and see if it sticks, and if it doesn't stick, then awesome, justice, made its way through the court system.
Sure, but I mean, like, that's again,
it's
like
like some
even,
people are in jail right now.
I mean, like even
Wait, one
even for
second.
the Kavanaugh stuff, right? A lot of those people were probably arrested. They were probably booked in holding, and then at the end of the day, they're like, we're not gonna try to prove like who was at a fucking riot or whatever. We're just gonna like release them all. Like, it's just kind of what happens.
They
But I mean,
fined them $35.
sure. Well,
I'm not even joking.
maybe okay, but like, I mean, you're going to this is part of what you do when you go to a protest or a riot, and I mean, this is kind of what you have to be ready for. If you show up to a protest or a riot, there's a chance that you're gonna get arrested. If you don't want to like go through that part of the legal system, then you probably shouldn't be there.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't
True.
go through the legal system. I'm saying that the overall process of this all, both from media, from government, and the
Process.
DOJ, has been highly politicized. And because of
No,
that,
it hasn't. It has not been highly politicized, dude.
you're seeing ridiculous charges that are falling through. You're seeing media spread so much misinformation about it to the point where people literally think that there was a Taliban-like plot to take over the government, to the point where some of the biggest filmmakers in the left-wing sphere, like Michael Moore, are sharing that opinion, and almost none of it is being corrected publicly, and even more so, some of it is spilling into the legal cases where you have Gerald B. Lefcourt, who was one of the
Wait, okay. Even if you say some of the individuals who are doing that didn't care about overthrowing the government, there is no question that Trump's admin, a lot of his officials, wanted to do something of the sort. They wanted to overturn the democratic process. They are authoritarians, the people who Trump keeps in his camp. That threat should not be taken lightly. When Michael Flynn is saying stuff like we need a coup in America like we saw in Myanmar or whatever, they were saying that over and over. And the QAnon super hard Trump supporters said we probably need a coup in America right now to make sure that Joe Biden can't keep on ruining the country. So like, of course, it's going to be taken into heavier consideration for people like that, and for people who are heads of organizations that are far right, radical, anti-democracy groups. Of course, it's going to be like that. And for people who are just a part of the mob going into the Capitol, like Destiny said, you're going to get arrested. That's par for the course. You're going to be held. You're going to be put in holding. Like, that's going to happen.
lawyers who defended the Black Panthers and the Chicago 7. And he said they're obviously just trying to build up the most horrendous cases possible because that's what the public wants. And it is the politicizing of criminal justice. And that's what I have a problem with. I do not have a problem with people being brought to court because they committed illegal actions. Yes, there's always going to be bias in some of these cases. Yes, there is always going to be, if an
Damn, bro. That moment when you're like trying to prosecute somebody and you don't choose the strongest case, that'd be
event was
wild.
more scary publicly, or there were more bad actors. Even if you weren't one of those bad actors, you're probably going to get dragged in the net. But there is a very obvious, you already have evidence that some of these people obviously committed illegal acts. Get them on that. The obvious politicizing and overextending of some of these narratives that anyone can go and
She's
read in
saying
the
a bunch of
documents.
dumb stuff.
It's out there. Hell, 14 of the people that are included in these arrests for the January 6th riot in some of the public articles are people that were just out past curfew. Like, that's it. They were out past curfew.
That's a chargeable offense, is it not?
For sure, but they're being thrown in as January 6th criminals.
Well,
Like,
yeah, but I
that's
mean, like,
crazy.
well, that's not, again, so that's not crazy.
If you see an article listing people who were literally arrested on that day at that location, that doesn't mean anything about the political or the legal process, dude. Holy crap. This is the dumbest point I ever heard about January 6th. Even the people I argue with from the middle of nowhere that are just like super big Trump supporters that like argue that it wasn't that bad don't make dumb points like she just made. Holy crap.
Like, that's what's just going to happen, right? Because how many people, when you go to start arresting people in a crowd like that, how many people are going to say, I'm just here, I'm not protesting, right? Like, that's pretty obvious that that's going to be a thing that you run into. So you charge people, you jail them, or you see if you have charges for them, and if not, then you let them out. In terms of like, I feel like a lot of first of all, we have to separate two institutions. We have to separate the media from like the actual legal system, because these two things exist in an entirely different world. Now, I know they bleed over for sure, but I'm saying like our treatment of them and our expectations of them are completely different. The media is fucked in terms of how they report on a lot of this. I'm not here to defend the media's reporting on any of this ever, because there are a lot of things that could be improved from a lot of different directions, for sure. But when we look at just the legal side of things and how the charges are going, right? When we say that like charges are falling through, like your implication when you say that is that like, oh man, like they're beating all these cases and all of these charges were made up and blah, blah, blah. No, 400 people were arrested.
That's not my implication.
Sure, okay, but I'm just saying that's what it sounds like, right? We're like, charges are falling through. It was all politicized. It was a political rally. Of course, there's going to be like a lot of like heated things and different people with different opinions here. But like, it's also not surprising. I would be shocked. I would be shocked if in the history of anything in the United States, if 100+ people get arrested and a whole bunch of charges over the next like few weeks aren't just like kind of dropped, where they look through and they're like, okay, this guy was not this guy didn't do this guy wasn't supposed to be here, this dude was just picking up his fucking brother, this guy who didn't do this shit, right? That's probably completely a natural thing. I bet that happens anytime hundreds of people are arrested for anything. So like, I don't know, like just like, I think that when you see 400 people arrested and you see the charges are conservative, they're not incredibly crazy, you don't see the sedition stuff, and then you start seeing some charges drop off, like all of this so far looks like it's just proceeding as it should to me. Like nothing seems like out of place or out of character. Now if people like Alex Jones or the Owen guy, if those guys are being booked and
unironically, she is the person, or ironically, whatever the words are, she is the person politicizing everything she reads.
Charged with like sedition
It's not the other
or some
people.
shit, now I'd be like, oh, okay, well, this is getting a little bit scary, all right? But like some, prosecutors going into the media on the 60 Minutes talking, a whole bunch of shit. Fucking people do this all the time. Look at that the Cohen did this. The one lawyer for the porn star woman against Trump did this. Giuliani has done this. Like, that fucking lawyers, no offense, but lawyers talk so much shit, and they'll do it anywhere where somebody will listen to them. I know this in real life, and I know this and I know this like on the media. So yeah, I don't see anything super wrong so far. Like I don't see anything where it's like, oh my god, this is so fucked. A bunch of people got arrested. Some charges are dropping off. Like the system is doing as it should right now.
Okay, fair enough. I think we agree on more than we disagree on the Capitol stuff. There are people that deserve charges. There are charges and
What? What was the point of the past half hour that you spent disagreeing with him? That's what I meant before when I said she was laughing. Like, she was using it as a defense mechanism. She made a bunch of dumb points that aren't coherent, whatever. These are incoherent points. They don't work. Destiny is like, maybe he is bored. Look, he looks so sad right here. He looks so sad. And she's trying to laugh it off. We agree on more than we disagree.
absolutely public stuff being said by the prosecutors that are completely overblown. Let me ask, do you think that your audience and the general public have an accurate analysis or understanding of what is going on with the indictments and what went down on January 6th at all?
Absolutely not. But that's an indictment, I think, of the media, not of our legal system.
Right. What about your own audience? Because I actually wanted to have this conversation with you because it was a lot of people in your audience that particularly had a problem with my video.
I would say if I had to guess,
January 6th was not an insurrection.
If I had to guess,
how dare she downplay it?
I would think that probably 40 to 50% of my audience probably thinks that there was a massively coordinated plan and that like 30 to 40% of the people in the building had all like prior like armed up and they all had handcuffs. Probably that wouldn't surprise me because that is what the prevailing media narrative is around this event.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess we can agree on that then. The media
we can, and that sucks. But my frustration though is that while 95% of what people, even in my fucking community, might believe is fucking horseshit, it was still like a historically horrendous event that I think is really unique in American history, and I think that it is something that like should be looked upon like in a pretty serious.
Remember, Trump still thinks the election was stolen, and before it happened, I have myself reacting to this because I predicted the entire thing, as you know. Trump literally held a rally on the day the election was supposed to be certified, a couple blocks away from the Capitol. And he said at his rally, like, all right, guys, we're going to take a little walk down to the Capitol so we can give a little bit of motivation to them to make sure they do the right thing. And he used really charged. He made it a much more angry and violent point than I just made it, like as I paraphrased him. But he literally brought his entire fighting force to the Capitol. And he was laughing as people went inside the building, and all the lawmakers had to run for their lives. Like Trump did that. People forget because people don't pay attention to the news or anything that actually happens. But I was there. I was reacting to it. I knew it was going to happen. I told everybody. Not necessarily
that like every person needs the craziest charges or whatever, but that we essentially had like a sitting president that was more or less like driving these events like front and center. And I think that's a really, really, really fucked up thing. And I think there's something really unique about that.
Wait, let me get the. I want to play this really quick. I have to find it on my channel really quick. My video reacting to Trump. The moment I realized the coup was happening. Jolah. This is my favorite clip on my channel because I was right. All right, well, it's not going to do it by the search function. Got to go through all the videos. It shouldn't be that far away, right? It's only like It's not that long ago. I don't really post that many videos, right? Wow. Look at all this. The moment I realized the coup was happening.
Assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down.
Man, look at back in the day, 190 viewers.
I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down.
Is he gonna do it?
Walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol.
He's gonna do it. He's doing it. He's actually doing it. Holy shit. He's actually doing it.
Cheer on our brave.
Oh my god, he's actually holy shit.
Congressmen and women.
He's actually doing it.
And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them.
I knew it. Holy shit. Well, I didn't know it, but he's actually doing it.
Take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength.
Oh my god, dude. Holy shit. Oh no.
We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing.
Yeah, this isn't good. This actually isn't good.
Who have been lawfully...
Yep, I knew it. I knew it.
Do you think that, I don't disagree, and I won't push it because I'm pretty sure you'd agree the same with all the BLM riots and stuff. But do you think that Trump...
You might have been in the chat. That was a day stream.
You'd agree that at least, because I get annoyed when people say this is a historic event that we need to focus on, but also, the BLM riots.
I never saw, when Biden was talking about the BLM riots, the only thing I ever saw Biden say was that we need to stop the rioting. That's what I heard Biden say over and over. I never heard, now I know that there were a couple of stupid statements made that were highly irresponsible.
Bro, I love it. They're like, Biden's a revolutionary Marxist who wants to tear down the system. He supports BLM taking over the American society. And then Joe Biden's like asked about protesting, and he's like, I know there's problems, but please stop protesting. It's not very nice. We gotta be civil. Like, he literally is so boring, bro.
I think Pelosi maybe even made one, but the general gist of the Democratic Party was not supporting the riots. Like when I say Democratic, I mean the lawmakers and the politicians, and definitely not like Biden. And I think that's way different than the messaging that came from the top down in the Republican Party, where it wasn't just Sean Hannity, it wasn't just Tucker Carlson. It was Trump saying that we need to fight to take this country back, that they're trying to steal the election. And that's what I think makes it unique and uniquely historical, is because the president of the United States was the one cheerleading that stuff. That's why I think it was, unique and historical.
I would disagree that there wasn't a swath of Democrat politicians and leaders using similar rhetoric. I mean, there's a video that came out, and it's literally a compilation of just, Nancy Pelosi and all of these Democrat talking heads on CNN literally saying, people need to start taking to the streets. People need to start fighting back. We need to take back these streets. Like, there was a lot of language like that. And I mean, you won't like this because it's a Donald Trump Jr. tweet, but it's actual footage of all the Democrats.
Nobody would ever compare the civil rights movement, and I know it often gets whitewashed, but nobody would ever compare the civil rights movement marching on Washington to what happened at the Capitol, for a main reason being fighting for civil rights in a protest is different from fighting for overturning an election in a mob. Those are two completely different things, and we try to make our systems understand that as good as we can.
Saying this, and if you want to suggest that there was not an equal amount of incitement from both parties, I would recommend you at least play that video or watch it.
Sure. So I mean, I can watch. Yeah. So I can watch the compilation. But the thing that I think is unique and different, and the issue that I have with populists in general, it would have been Bernie Sanders, but because Trump won, it's Donald Trump. My issue is that having a whole bunch of politicians talking about taking to the streets and fighting back and blah blah blah, I think that is fundamentally different.
But for the exact same reason I just said, a difference between the two with Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump is what you are calling for. Who are you calling to be fighting against? Is it reflecting real power structures in society? So Donald Trump getting people mad about immigration, about America becoming less white, about American culture, about American exceptionalism, Donald Trump getting people mad about a democracy because he doesn't like democracy is much different from Bernie Sanders trying to pressure the system to change in a positive way when it comes to actual healthcare policy. Populism is a dangerous tool. So when Bernie Sanders uses it, he needs to be very responsible with it. But directing frustrations in society towards accomplishing actual goals that you can say are actual power structures in society, and I don't think anybody disagrees that rich people do have more power in society. America is behind in healthcare. America is behind in education. America is is behind in childcare. America is behind in all of these things, equating Trump and Bernie Sanders. And I know Destiny is doing that here because he has that view of populism, and he probably wants to compare Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders for this debate because it makes him seem more charitable to Lauren. But that's such a dumb statement. You would never compare FDR to Hitler or FDR to Mussolini, although they were all populists, because FDR he believed in civil liberties, even if he was kind of authoritarian for his time, because he used so many unilateral actions. Positive, responsible populists that are like liberal populists are necessary to make sure societal frustrations are channeled in the right direction, because you're going to have points in society, in democracies, where going gets tough and you need to change. You need to be able to change, although we have an incremental system. And people like Bernie Sanders pressure the system in a healthy way. I don't care if a couple Twitter people like Brianna Joy Gray, which makes up 0.00001% of the country, I don't care if that person is an illiberal idiot, because that's a huge minority, because Bernie Sanders kept it focused on the issue. That is the difference in populism between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. And I hate it when Destiny equates those two things, because it shows a fundamental misunderstanding of not only American history, but also what's happening now in contemporary society. And that just, oh my God, I understand populism is dangerous, but that evaluation just is false.
And having somebody that is part of the government attacking part of your most fundamental institutions. Because Donald Trump wasn't saying like, oh, you just need to take the streets. Oh, Donald Trump was accusing the entire...
Yeah, because FDR and Mussolini and Hitler were all populists, but they differed in a key way for a very real reason. I think we all know what's different between FDR and Hitler and Mussolini, although their rhetoric sounded similar.
Entire institution that was the United States
because
Democratic...
There's actually a book about this that like sort of imagines America during World War II. We had a big neo-Nazi population in America. There was a lot of populist energy. So if somebody like FDR didn't swoop in to soak up all that populist energy to direct it in the right direction, we may have had a white nationalist win the presidency in America. That was a very real possibility. So rejecting the idea of a populist like Bernie Sanders wholesale is it's ignorant when it comes to a historical understanding of how the presidency has functioned, or how policy or politics has functioned. But again, like I said, I note all the time, Kyle Kulinski, Brianna Joy Gray, they are dangerous when it comes to populism. They don't know what they're doing. Crystal ball, dangerous. Jimmy Dore, dangerous. But,
process of being fundamentally hollowed out and worthless. And that is...
How is that any worse than accusing the entire system of being racist and intentionally shooting black people in the streets just because they're black? This is simply the rhetoric of politics in 2020-21. I agree. Like it's insane to assert some of these things, but unfortunately, that's just where the rhetoric has gone with politics in general.
Yeah, so I would agree that for some Democratic lawmakers that the rhetoric got a little bit too spicy. I would definitely agree with that. However, there's a fundamental difference between a lot of parts of the U.S. Criminal justice system are racist, which maybe it's a separate conversation. There's decent evidence that there is some racial bias, maybe not as bad as progressives claim, but there is definitely some racial bias. There's a difference between that claim versus saying your entire democratic system is broken, and if you don't show up and kill these fucking politicians, everything is going to be taken from you. Those two things are worlds apart in terms of severity of messaging.
Who said we need to show up and kill these politicians?
So it's not show up and kill the... Sorry, those were my words. I'm not quoting somebody. But when the messaging over and over again...
I don't think anyone was saying that.
I mean, I can give you we can go and look up 30 Donald Trump quotes about how you need to fight to take this country back, that people are going to steal your country from you, that the election is rigged, that all the votes are rigged, right? When you're getting this over and over again, when people are telling you your country's being taken from you, your country's going to be... And these are more or less verbatim Donald Trump quotes. I can go and look it up. And you feel that way, that your country's being stolen and the votes are rigged and you need to go and protest. Well, what is your only option, right? There's no point in protesting because the democracy is...
Yeah, it puts you into survival mode. And people truly do believe their country's being stolen. That's why I think Tucker Carlson should be taken off air, because he's convincing people that there literally is a white genocide happening.
Broken. So violence is literally the only answer. And that's my issue. Donald Trump's rhetoric made it sound as though violence was the only solution left. On that day, he even tweeted out that Pence, the last line of defense, had failed. So what are you supposed to do as a citizen at that point?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. The only thing I would say is we should really look at how we got to that state. Mm-hmm. As in, we should look at the fact that for the last 2, 3, 4 years, it's become impossible or very difficult to have conversations that aren't extremely hyperbolic to the point where right now, I mean, we can sit here and dissect them, and it's going to be pretty fucking difficult to distinguish what is a rhetorical flourish versus what is an actual order, which is why even you yourself are uncomfortable with the idea of Owen Schroyer getting charges for incitement, because that leads to like the open floodgates of almost every media figure being brought in for trying to incite riots. Yourself too, probably, for some of you.
And on that point about populism that I made earlier, there is a reason Bernie Sanders's illiberal populist idiots are restricted to Twitter as a minority of a minority of a minority of our democratic process. And Donald Trump's populism has made an entire political party fall to anti-democratic norms. There is a fundamental reason that has happened. The liberal populist versus the illiberal populist, they're not the same. They're not the same in any way. You know, a liberal socialist that uses populist rhetoric is not the same as an actual anti-democratic authoritarian dictator wannabe using, you know, what Trump does.
Your rhetorical flourishes, right?
And all the Bernie voters, you know, 99% of Bernie voters are voting for Democrats and voting for Biden. And I think Destiny is too Twitter eccentric. So he's like, I see on Twitter that the Twitter lefties. And I think that's why his take on populism is what it is.
We need to talk about why we got to that point, how we get back from that point. And I do think there's a very good point that because of the following actions, obviously, and because Trump is Trump, people...
Please drop a like on the stream, by the way. If you're watching on YouTube on the playback, please drop a like and leave a comment and subscribe. After this, I'm going to react to that one VAUSH video. I'm sure everybody has seen it already, but I have not seen 1 second of it, so I want to see the VAUSH is evil video. It's getting a lot of buzz, so I think it'll be worth checking out for me at least.
People took Trump's rhetorical flourishes way more seriously than they do 99% of the other groups of people that normalized this behavior.
I mean, like, Trump claiming that our election was rigged is not a rhetorical flourish, right? Trump saying that Pence failed to protect the election, that's not a rhetorical flourish.
I was more so talking about the we need to take our nation back kind of thing. We need to take these straight backs.
Wait, Cloud, isn't every vote paper-backed even if it's cast electronically?
As rhetorical flourishes. But when you're talking about direct misinformation, don't pretend that isn't existing on all sides to great degrees.
There are different levels of misinformation, and that's the problem. The only reason the United States made it through 4 years of Trump, regardless of how you feel about him, the only reason we made it through is because somehow the institutions in the United States are actually pretty powerful. They actually do what they're supposed to, and I think that surprised for the more astute people and not the people that are doomsaying everything. I think it was actually really surprising at how well the majority of our institutions held up. But to have somebody that is...
One more point on the populism. One more. Bernie Sanders was able to get some type of political power through what he did campaigning, and he, right after the primary, every single time he loses, he directs all of his votes to Joe Biden, and he serves his role in government. That's another fundamental difference. Bernie Sanders believes in the American project, on improving on American, or not the American, he believes in improving on liberal democracies. Not the American, but he believes in improving on liberal democracies.
It was actually really surprising at how well the majority of our institutions held up. But to have somebody that is sitting at the head of state that is constantly trying to destroy these institutions and say that every part of these institutions is rigged, that you can't trust anything. You can't trust the FBI. You can't trust any of the intelligence. You can't trust my own DOJ. He threw his own attorney general, multiple attorney generals under the bus. You can't trust the Department of Homeland Security. He threw all of his own people under the bus. You can't trust you can't trust anything, even the electoral process. Some of the state governors can't be trusted, right? That is fundamentally different than, and I will say, I didn't like a lot of the rhetoric that came out of some left-leaning state lawmakers and even some of the federal ones. That's way different than saying, like, the police are rigged, we need to do something about the police.
No. Okay, right now, you're trying to, this is my opinion, it sounds like you're trying to privilege the misinformation you don't like as more dangerous than the misinformation that comes from the left. And I just cannot agree. I think that, well, the Capitol riot itself was absolutely a historical and, a terrifying event, I'm sure, for some people. The riots over all of 2020 did...
This is a interesting conversation here, because once you get to this point with people, you have to sort of find out if Lauren Southern thinks racism is real, or like systemic racism is real, because that'll serve as, if you justify BLM or not, because she probably doesn't justify BLM because she doesn't believe systemic racism exists.
far more damage, destroyed far more lives, led to far more loss of life. And people just don't want to talk about the misinformation that led to that. People want to exaggerate and blow up the misinformation around what Trump said because it's politically convenient.
I think that there's room to talk about that, but I mean, even when we talk about the BLM riots, there were like over 15,000 people got arrested for that, right? It wasn't like or it might have been 17,000 or 20,000. I have to go look. There were a lot of people that got arrested over the BLM riot stuff. The problem is that the BLM, there's a lot to unpack. I would consider, okay.
What is, if you are told that cops are just slaughtering black people in the streets, that they are inherently racist, they will just shoot you, there's no justice system that works, they don't care, violence is the only answer to that too, and that's what we saw for an entire year. And you're trying to act as if these things are not comparable.
Who was being told violence is the only option when like 99% of all protests were completely peaceful without even like one bottle thrown at anybody?
So the difference is the level of misinformation and the type of institution that you're attacking. So I will agree. Well, the first thing that I'll reject is the first thing you said is where our disagreement is you're saying that like I prefer some forms of misinformation over others. Of course I do. Everybody does. There are absolutely some forms of misinformation that are less harmful than others. So for instance, a lot of people listening right now think that you need to drink like 16 glasses of water a day. That's actually totally bullshit. It's based on some child medical study. It's actually completely not true. But a lot of people think it. There's a whole subreddit called Hydro Homies based on it. But that information.
That's not true. I've been chugging water since I was born.
Is like relatively harmless. Misinformation is relatively harmless, okay? Now, scaling this up, if we look at a lot of the stuff around the BLM riots, okay, I know you've heard me talk about like Rittenhouse and shit. I hate a lot of the misinformation that exists around a lot of the police narratives in this country. I hate it. Everybody thinks if you get pulled over by a cop, you're gonna get executed, et cetera, et cetera. I think a lot of this is stupid. But that level of misinformation, one, only like puts at odds like people with local police departments, a lot of which got changed and then rolled back because people are like, okay, wait, this is stupid. We can't defund our police. We've got crime. This is dumb. And two, where it came from, it wasn't the president of the United States saying we need to destroy all cops. We need to get rid of the cops.
By the way, a lot of the issues they had with quote unquote defunding the police or changing policing wasn't even that they had like a big crime issue after that because of the policy change. It's because of the social reaction or like the police force quitting or the police union not being happy with what's happening or like they don't have or like they don't have the funding in the right places. Like, you know, it wasn't a fundamental failure of like redirecting funds in general. There's a lot of programs working throughout the country when it comes to helping medical or like mental health experts come on or like social workers come on the scene when they need to. A lot of it is because there's an issue with getting police. There is a shortage in policing. We're going to have to pay cops a lot more because there are a lot of cops quitting. It's not a good job. It pays crap for what you do. You get pretty shitty training to do it. So there's an issue retaining officers. That's one of the big issues.
All of the cops have been rotten. Even Obama, even when he was at his highest virtue signaling point, was never saying things like, we need to get rid of all the cops in this country. But Trump was. Trump was saying the whole country was rigged. Every institution was rigged. Every part of it was rotten to the core. I do think that there is a difference between these two levels of misinformation, even if I do disagree with them both.
Okay. Just because you have a preference for some misinformation doesn't make that misinformation more principled or a sustainable view.
If there's misinformation where 30% is false and it doesn't make people inherently like try to overturn the government, that's probably better than misinformation that's 99% false or 100% false that makes people think their country's being stolen by brown people or whatever.
Both Trump and both BLM we're trying to portray, at least with the description you gave, that there is an apartheid state of which one side is getting totally fucked over and the other side isn't. And there's no way to oppose this because the system is broken. So we have to violently take it over and take it down. And, you know, just as you've made the...
Wait, okay. I know you're making the argument platforming her at all is irresponsible, but I think Destiny should be doing this because Xander Hall is bad at his job. He's not good at what he does. I'm sorry if you're a Xander Hall fan. He platformed her very irresponsibly. I give him a bad rating overall. There's a reason. Never mind. I won't say it. The Serfs also is not good at what they do. Lance could not handle Lauren Southern. That was irresponsible. Destiny is the father. He is the captain of this game. I think VAUSH could debate her. But like, if you're not Destiny or VAUSH, if you're not one of the big dogs, you probably should not be engaging with her because she is decent at being like really rhetorically slimy and all that stuff. Xander Hall is the worst debater in online politics. Probably.
To claim, oh, well, we had some BLM people that came out and went, oh, taking down the police is stupid. We need to walk that back a bit. I could take the quotes of Trump saying, come out and make your voice heard peacefully. Don't.
Jangles, did he do well? I usually see really good stuff from him. I didn't see his debate versus Lauren, though, but I usually see really good, I've seen really good stuff.
Invade the Capitol. Don't do this. But that does not take away the fact that we already saw all of these statements publicly. We can see the effect and impact that they had. And I don't know, man, like I felt like I'm biting the bullet.
Rose Wrist, yeah, Rose Wrist is really talented as well. That was really nice. Really underrated. He's really young too. Yeah, keep calling out names. You'll. Isn't that funny though? How like you have Destiny, VAUSH, but then the middle tier guys seem to be really bad at what they do. You know, the copies, the direct copies. I think Mouthy Infidel is probably okay, although I think he comes off pretty unpleasant, so that hurts for like winning debates rhetorically, or like not rhetorically, but like winning debates when it comes to getting people on your side. But I think like Rose Wrist and Destiny and VAUSH and Jangles, you guys are giving me a good lineup of the debate Avengers.
Here and saying there was absolutely misinformation in the Trump camp that led to the idea of an apartheid state, of which the only response to it was violence. And I don't know why you are having so much trouble saying the exact same thing happened in the other camp. Well, and in fact, first,
I don't think Xander Hall's content is bad. He does good like VAUSH light content, but I don't think he's that good at debating, really. He does a lot of emulation. I don't know. Yeah, he just needs to put some, I don't know. Needs to put some work in. You get to a point, you don't think Xan is as bad as Lance? That'll be a good debate. But you get to a point where you need to stop looking at like other people to get better at what you do. Yeah, Mouthy, like I said, I usually see good stuff. You have Cedar. So like Xander Hall, for example, he had a conversation with Destiny. And he seemed like a kid asking his father for advice or whatever. Like when he talks to VAUSH or Destiny, he seems like he's trying to copy someone else's style and take it as his own. And you need to be able to encapsulate like your own style into things. You need to be able to make your own way to do things. Even if you have influences, everybody has influences. You need to be able to get your own edge. Like you look at even like, I know a lot of people don't like Demon Mama, but although she has a lot of influence from like VAUSH and Destiny, she found a style that works for her. Like you need to be able to do that to be effective or like to get good at your job when you're doing something like this that requires character and personality and all that stuff.
So to be clear,
and I just think Xander Hall is more of a fan of streaming and debating than he is like an actual debater. So I think that's one thing he could do to get better. Like just figure out your own style, figure out what your jump shot is, figure out what your flow is, figure out what your angle is going to be, or how you want to approach things in a way that's like coming from you and not somebody else.
The exact same thing happened in the other camp. Well, and in fact, first.
So to be clear,
I didn't say I like her style, but I think she found her own way to do it. That's the thing that really irks me about like Xander Hall. And I don't know.
I have no trouble saying that. In fact, like half of my stream.
But you're trying to make it seem like Trump's is worse.
Absolutely, yeah, of course.
Clearly, significantly more powerful than Trump when it comes to affecting the public, the public in general. Yeah, Trump could mobilize a bit of his group, but he ultimately lost the election. He ultimately
half the Republicans in the state don't even believe he lost, though, right? Like, so the problem is that, like, I will tell you, I don't even consider it a concession. I'll say misinformation exists on both sides, but you can't seriously tell me that all misinformation is equal. Again, like, there's misinformation, like, if you eat carrots, it's going to make your eyes healthier, versus misinformation.
No, I won't. I think the media's misinformation led to more damage objectively, and we can look at that. We can calculate the amount of damage done. We can calculate the amount of people killed.
Dude, I want to maybe I should do a streamer tier list. That could be fun. I can make some drama, give my hot takes, since I'm not like a official streamer, because I'm doing like IRL stuff right now in politics or whatever. So like, that'd be fun. I could do a streamer tier list. Spencer, thank you so much for $5. Again, Spencer's going crazy tonight. Xander Hall got owned by Dusty Smith. Oh, I actually need to watch Dusty Smith. I don't know much about his content, but people have directed me to him. Pac-Man.
We can calculate how long the riots went.
Pac-Man's. I don't know. I don't know what I think about. I don't know. I want to know what kind of guy he actually is. Like what he really cares about behind the scenes. That'd be really interesting to me.
Look at that. We can calculate the amount of damage done. We can calculate the amount of people killed. We can calculate how long the riots went on, how many shops and businesses were destroyed. We can calculate those things, how much it cost the country. Just based on calculation alone, the BLM misinformation was significantly worse than Trump's misinformation. Not to say they weren't both misinformation. That shouldn't have happened.
But that calculation is going to be very difficult because when I point at the Trump stuff, I'm going to be pointing out like how much economic damage have we suffered because people won't get vaccinated? How many more lives were lost because people don't trust the CDC when it comes to being told to wear a mask or socially distance? Because the damage that Trump did wasn't just restricted to the January 6th riots. It was an undermining. And,
we're talking about January 6th right now.
No.
I mean, you can talk about. We can talk about misinformation. If we talk about misinformation on a general.
Did you guys see Jim Acosta of CNN? He called Marjorie Taylor Greene, Madison Cawthorn, and Tucker Carlson the American Taliban. Oh, damn, bro. Calling out the facts. Oh my God. They agree on a lot of points. There's a reason Tucker Carlson invites Hungarian prime ministers on his show. like, dude, Texas right now, their abortion law is more Taliban than it is American. Are you kidding me? It's far more Taliban than it is American. Taliban would love their policies. And you know, when the right in America freaks out about Harry Styles, and by the right, I mean Tucker Carlson. When they freak out about, or like Ben Shapiro, when they freak out about Harry Styles wearing a dress, the Taliban agrees. They don't want men being feminine. Like, come on, bro.
Level. Definitely, the media are going to have way more hell to pay than Trump.
You're acting
absolutely
like,
over the history of forever. But we're talking about just riots.
I don't know how much conservative media you listen to, but Trump set the narrative on a lot of right-leaning media. He literally called in multiple times to the Fox and Friends show. People like Rush Limbaugh would literally talk about conversations they've had with him. People like Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson and Rudy Giuliani. These are people that directly sometimes talk to Trump. Or Michael Cohen are literally going on these shows from Trump. You can't act like Trump existed in this bubble that was totally independent of the media. Number one. And number two, there is still a special, unique fact that Trump was the president of the United States. That was echoing some of these.
You're shifting the goalposts from talking about riots because I think we both realize that when it comes to riots, BLM disinformation did way more damage.
No,
we can have a conversation about general Trump misinformation, absolutely. But when we're talking about the riots in themselves, January 6th, and the misinformation that caused that versus the misinformation that caused the riots in 2020 with.
I remember when when a lot of conservative commentators in America were talking about supporting Hong Kong because they want to fearmonger about like China. But when you look at what they say about BLM and property damage in Hong Kong, the property damage there was like 100 times more in monetary value than BLM in the past like 10 years or something like that, something crazy. So like, yeah, that was kind of funny to me.
BLM and those two questions of is saying the police are racist system, the policing is all racist and the state says no justice for Black Americans going to cause more or less damage than saying the election was a fraud. Well, we can objectively measure how much damage these things did.
If it was the case that all of Trump's misinformation led to January 6th, and then afterwards we went back to normal, I would agree with you. I'd be like, oh, I would say January 6th, who the fuck cares? But that's the problem. January 6th was just one of the many dominoes that fell as a result of the Trump alternative universe that he was selling to half the people in this country. If January 6th was just a one-off thing, and that was Trump's little splurge, and it was like, oh, whatever, then I would just be saying, like, who the fuck cares? Why are we still talking about Trump? I don't care. But the problem—
By the way, when you look at this debate happening, they pivoted at like the half-hour mark. Lauren realized all of her like articles were bullshit. Like she had no facts. So now she's pivoting to the rhetorical game 100%. She's not trying to bring up articles. She's not trying to bring up facts. She's not trying to bring up court cases. Now she's hammering home like BLM is just as bad. Like
right now in the United States, half our Republican Party doesn't think the election was legitimate. A quarter of the Republican Party thinks that Democrats are like raping children in satanic, sex cult rituals, right? Like the damage is lasting. And if you want to draw like a calculation for like, oh, well, let's
Holy crap, GC Snipe, thank you so much for $20. Oh my God. You're doing a great job. Stay strong. Thank you. I'll do a video updating people on my
like one thing and try to figure out like, first of all, you're comparing like the BLM riots, which a lot of their complaints are more rooted in fact than Trump's complaints, which is that there is a lot of unfavorability in our criminal justice system towards minorities. Even if you don't agree that it's as intense as it is, there's way more fact-based arguments there than there are with the election was rigged and stolen by like machines that were created by the zombie of fucking Hugo Chavez, right? It is a totally different world. I will agree that there's misinformation on both sides, but you can't tell me that all misinformation is equal. We both know that's not true. Some types of misinformation is way fucking worse than other types of misinformation. Being told that you can run your car on like 91 octane when you really only need like 85 is way different than being told to put diesel in your car when it only runs on unleaded gasoline. There's way two totally different things, different types of misinformation.
And the Republicans you mentioned that don't believe that the election was legitimate, are they waging a revolution?
And notice right there, Destiny didn't even engage with her point about BLM. He completely pivoted to another point about how misinformation is not equal. He didn't even engage, and she moved off it as well. So he won that little rhetorical tug of war.
Right now?
I mean, in ways, yeah.
How is that revolution taking place?
The entire approach that we have right now to the coronavirus is one of the most heavily politically divided things right now, and I think that is a remnant of like the Trump universe. The idea that we've got people taking the ivermectin now, we did it with the hydroxychloroquine drug before. Yeah.
That's not a revolution. None of what you're saying is a revolution.
Well, then BLM wasn't a revolution.
I didn't say it was.
Okay, well, who's using the word revolution? Why would you use the word revolution?
I asked you, like, you're talking about these Republicans having beliefs that our misinformation is extremely dangerous. I happen to believe that most people on this planet, probably even us, believe some information that is misinformation because, as we both agree, the media is shit. But the degree of how dangerous said misinformation matters. So you're saying this idea that a good portion of Republicans believing the election was illegitimate is extremely dangerous. But I asked, are those Republicans waging a revolution right now? Like, are they doing something that is extremely dangerous comparatively to how other people are acting on misinformation? Like in Canada,
I would say yes. Especially when you have so that bipartisan infrastructure plan that barely went through, like Josh Hawley and all the right-wing populists or whatever, they were calling it about gender mandates and critical race theory. One of the most boring, brick and mortar, cement, concrete, bridge building infrastructure plans. They were still making it a culture war issue. And you have people like Matt Gaetz and stuff and Marjorie Taylor Greene really preaching, and Tucker Carlson really preaching about the white replacement theory. And these ideologies have always been around, but never before in American, well, not for at least 50, 60, or in the past 30 or 40 years, these ideologies haven't crept up in this way. I would say ever before, because of how the internet works and how social media platforms work. So this entire thing right now, it is happening slowly, and it's really dangerous because it's not going to be a gun going off. It's going to be a slow decline. It's going to be our institutions slowly being delegitimized and our elections slowly being, more people being cut out of the democratic process and all that stuff.
The mainstream misinformation.
Hey, but COVID right now is turning Florida blue, so I don't know.
There was a genocide and mass graves discovered in Canada, which is completely false. Which is causing churches to be burned down. I'd say that's objectively very dangerous misinformation because we are seeing real world consequences to it. Misinformation that leads to people having silly beliefs that they argue with their friends about, not so much dangerous as misinformation that people feel the need to directly act on and are directly acting on, as we see in Canada with the Indigenous graves issue.
So I just completely and totally disagree, but it's going to be hard for either of us to quantify this. I think that it sucks and it's bad, but 15 churches getting burned down in Canada is nowhere near how fucked our country has gotten over how divisive we are over everything related to the coronavirus. I would take 1,000 churches burned to the ground in an instant over the unbelievable divisiveness that exists in this country right now over the coronavirus stuff. But if you don't want to draw a line from the Trump universe to where we're at with that, and you only want to stop at January.
Damn, Destiny just advocated for burning down 1,000 churches. No other context.
6th. I mean, if that's how strict you're going to
yeah. I think putting all of coronavirus skepticism on Trump is a bit silly.
I would absolutely do it.
Whoa. Yeah. You look at groups like African Americans, they are some of the least likely to get vaccinated right now. And part of that comes from the fact that they remember government running medical tests on them that were absolutely bullshit and being used as medical experience.
No, that's not why. The modern interaction with our healthcare system is more of a reason. All these black people are not saying oh, Tuskegee, that's why I'm not getting, that's why I'm not going to get vaccinated. It's a general belief that the American medical system doesn't care for them. So, for example, right now with black women, the infant mortality rate and the birth mortality rate of women dying giving birth is so much higher for black women. And the hospitals in black communities are a lot worse. The community health centers are a lot worse. It's a lot of more contemporary stuff. It's not all because of this grand, American history. A lot of it is just a lot of that stuff.
Experimentation. There are a lot more areas where skepticism comes from than just Trump.
But there are more areas that skepticism comes from. But the big demographic in America we're having a big issue with right now is spectrum. It is a lot of like white conservatives. That's the biggest block that's not getting vaccinated. If you look at like the percentage of like the population that different communities make up or whatever, the big issue is that because of how many of them there are.
I don't think he started that at all. He may have contributed to it. Now he's telling people get vaxxed, do it. But I don't think pinning that all on Trump is fair.
I'm not can't pin it all on Trump the same way that you can't pin it all on the media, right? Like there's going to be like varying degrees of responsibility. But like when we talk about like, I don't believe the medical experience. Like people will bring up like Tuskegee for brownie points on a YouTube video without realizing that like those experiments affected like 400 people. It wasn't like that was an experiment ran across the entire fucking country.
It doesn't. But and black people about that doesn't.
And black people do have issues with the medical systems in the United States, and I don't fault them for that. I think they should still get vaccinated. But black people also account for what? Isn't it like 10% of the U.S. population? Black people aren't.
Good points, Destiny. Yes. Good thing that we have the same rebuttals to this argument. I wish I could debate people more so, because I think I do better than like Xander Hall or whatever.
The reason why our vaccine rates in the United States got overtaken by Canada in like 3 months. They're not the reason why we have like a 50% like, you know, full vaccination rate. It's not black people. It's the overwhelming.
It was.
Okay, sure, but you're bringing up a very small minority of the population trying to say like, oh well, look, there was some misinformation.
I'm just giving an example that there are multitudes of reasons.
And
that
I'm not going to.
Trump.
But do you think I would tell you that Trump was the sole source of misinformation? I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say
is, you right now, this whole discussion does seem to be like you saying Trump is the catalyst for misinformation and the most dangerous misinformation in the U.S. at the moment, when he's not even in power anymore. And the conversation you've gone off into has nothing to do with January 6th anymore, which is what we're trying to talk about. Was the information around January 6th of more damaging than the misinformation by groups like BLM?
But the problem
and I think that's why you're trying to pivot off the conversation, because it's so damn obvious that BLM's misinformation led to way more damage.
First of all, you're trying to get me to compare one man, Donald Trump, to the entirety of the media, and you want to compare like riots.
I didn't ask you to make that.
No, you did. You started to make the comparison. You started to make the comparison.
I did not ask you to make that comparison. You were the one who said you think Trump has been the catalyst of all of this misinformation.
Wait, no. Hold on. Wait. No.
It's a big. I'll let this part play out.
Whoa. I did not say he was the catalyst of all misinformation.
Or that he has been more dangerous than other misinformation.
No. I specifically said at the beginning of this conversation that I view the media as being separate from the legal system. That was one thing, which Trump as the executive is a part of. Okay, so I said that explicitly in the beginning, number one.
One big thing is, if Trump said something, every media platform right-leaning in America repeated it. So he was the source, because the audiences these stations attract are Trump. That's why he's been able to take over this party with his cult of personality. So everything he said was multiplied across thousands of networks all across the country. So Trump alone was the main source of disinformation. Even if you didn't hear it from Trump, whatever Tucker said was from Trump. So.
And then number two, you challenged me to quantify the damage. And you said, well, if we calculate the BLM riots, it's like, okay, well, hold on. If we're going to calculate like all the BLM riots, well, then I'm going to look at more damage Trump did than just January 6th. And if we look at the coronavirus stuff, because that's obviously, you can say that he's not in office anymore, but we both know that doesn't mean anything, because he was in office for his whole last year dealing with this, right? That all of the divisiveness, or not all of it, a large part of the divisiveness that we have in the United States right now has to do with Trump's rhetoric and how he treated it. And I don't care that 10% of the population, black people, have some dumb ideas about the vaccine. That is bad and it sucks, but it is nowhere near the level of harm that Trump like put on the United States with how he approached it.
There you go. It's Trump again. Okay, so if I'm interpreting this correctly, and feel free to correct me, when we were talking and I brought up the media, you were trying to compare, or ask me to compare, the office of the presidency to the media and how much damage or how much impact they can have. Is that a correct interpretation of the conversation?
Well, no, you wanted to bring up BLM first. I didn't want to talk about that at all, but you were the one that wanted to make that comparison between who does more damage from misinformation. Let's talk about the BLM riots, because we can quantify that versus January 6th.
Well, right. The conversation that I was trying to bring up is essentially that I felt like the damage and the discussion of misinformation by Trump was largely overblown in the public's eyes versus how much damage other misinformation does, which then brought up the question of, I mean, I'll have to go back and watch it, but I do believe you said that Trump himself and the president saying something is far more impactful and far more serious of a situation than the media or other groups saying them. And I question that, because I've seen the damage of wide groups like BLM and the misinformation they spread, and I've seen the damage of what Trump spreads. Sure, we can say it's shocking that one man can have that effect versus large groups, but the overall result...
The stream's lagging. Wait, let me try to fix it real quick. By the way, drop a like on the stream. Let me see if I can fix this. If I press this button, the magical internet will come back. Okay, we should be good.
Of the misinformation, who it's spread by or how it's spread, and how that comes about and realizes itself in the real world, to me, is what we should focus on.
Is tonight Xander Hall hate night? it does sort of make me wonder how somebody like him can turn streaming at the quality that he does into a full-time job where he makes more money than like my family members that work like actual jobs. Like he makes like 50, 60K. Like the idea that he can do that at the quality that he does and make that much money really just confuses me. I don't know. I know people who like have master's degrees and they're making like 40, 50K, like 50, 60K a year. And I'm like, wait, how does he do this? Like, how? I just don't get it. I literally just don't know.
On, as that's how it's going to affect us, not whether it's one individual or 20 individuals spreading it.
We don't have to, I mean, we can focus on a lot of different things. We don't have to just talk about one thing. I mean, like, if you're going to try to say, like, who spreads more misinformation?
Yeah, he did look on his channel, he did a breakdown before of how much money he makes. He did one of those videos that was like, you know, guys, I'm not begging you to donate to me. I'm just being transparent. I'm doing pretty shitty right now. I need some money. Like, he's like, I'm going to tell you if I'm doing good or if I'm doing bad because I'm transparent. I'm a good streamer. I'm not going to lie to you. Because people make those videos, as Mike from PA does this too, where you're like, I'm so transparent about the money I make on here. So if I'm doing bad, I'm going to tell you. If I'm doing good, I'm going to tell you. It just so happens that I'm always doing bad. So like, I need more money. Like, it's just, I don't know, dude. I don't like those
Donald
tactics.
Trump, who was president of...
Get a part-time job somewhere. I don't know. Move away from your expensive, like if you live in an expensive area or some shit. I don't know. I don't
For 4 years of just the United States.
Hey, 12-year-olds watching me. I'm begging you to give me money, please. Please, I need to keep on doing streaming as a job. Please give me money. I average 100 viewers and I do panels and I still don't get more subscribers somehow. How am I stuck here? Guys, help. I need to make this a full-time job. I deserve it. Based on because I said so. Please,
versus
guys.
All the media and all the history of the world. I mean, like, obviously the media wins. I don't think that conversation is worth having.
Okay, so that's I thought we were disagreeing because I was like, I don't think you can say Trump was worse than all of the media have been over the last 2 years.
But that's the thing. Well, if you want to talk about just for the 4 years of Trump, like what was worse, like Trump versus all of the media during the 4 years of Trump, I would probably say Trump is worse there because the expectations of the president of the United States are far higher than what I would expect out of fucking CNN, MSNBC.
Okay, so you're holding them to different standards. I guess that's the difference. Is I'm not holding them to different standards.
You hold media.
I think anyone with that level of power should not be a fucking idiot with it and spreading disinformation.
Wait. So to be clear, you hold for-profit media to the same level of responsibility as
Have a good night.
Hold everyone to the same level of responsibility to not spread misinformation. If you're spreading misinformation, I'm going to call you out equally. Sure, yes, absolutely. The president has more power. There's no denying that. But when it comes to actually challenging misinformation, the media have just as much ability to spread that misinformation as the president, which is how it does damage, is by it being spread. And now, certainly with Trump losing most of his platforms, the media...
Independent media shares far more misinformation than corporate media. I'm sorry. I love independent media. There's a lot of good stuff on there. But this whole mass of unregulated whatever that we see on like Facebook is far worse than like CNN and MSNBC. There is more of a way to hold them accountable than there is like Temple or random like link, you know, whatever the channels are on Facebook or the links on Facebook is like Red Nation kill communism at loveamerica.net pro 2A. I don't know. Xander Hall got a huge attention from the media. Or he got media attention from leaving the alt-right. Yeah, I know about that. But ICRU made a good point about that. Like, if you have VAUSH and Xander Hall, why would I watch a worse version of VAUSH when I can get the real thing doing the exact same segments? You know, I just don't. I'm just going to watch VAUSH, you know.
Actually have more ability to spread misinformation than Trump.
So
yeah, sure, we should hold them to different standards maybe, but it doesn't matter really in what the effect of the misinformation is. If it's spread, it's spread, and that's how it does damage. Not, I'm more powerful and I said something. Like, no, it's the spreading of that misinformation that does the damage.
Well, but who spreads misinformation will determine how far it goes.
Yeah, like, why are you watching me? I do BS content. I don't make original videos. Right? What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I say like Anderson Cooper said this, that's not going to be as impactful as President Obama saying this. Maybe we just fundamentally disagree here, but I mean, I would say that it is almost self-evident that there are different levels of responsibility for people based on their reach and based on their position. I could even say even within the media, I would
Forbes,
say
68% of Americans don't trust what Trump says.
That's a shocking number that is that low. But the problem is that like there's like, even when we look in the media, the responsibility that would place on like a local reporter in like a small town in Iowa is going to be way different than somebody that reports like the city media in like New York City, which is going to be way different than somebody who's like in like national or international media. Like there's always going to be different levels of responsibility based on who you are and what your reach is. And also when it comes to telling stories, so if you've spent a lot of time in media.
Yeah, they don't
everybody
rap.
has, like,
Good
a
point,
different story.
Nighthawk.
It is possible to tell two different stories without really lying, right? Because we selectively choose which facts we want to report, and it's not necessarily a lie. You're just telling a certain way. So there are ways that like Fox News and CNN could tell a different story about the same set of facts because they pick and choose what they want to report on. The responsibility that I hold on those people pushing a narrative. If I'm listening to Fox News, I expect that that narrative is going to slant right. If I'm listening to CNN, I expect that that narrative is going to slant left. If I'm listening to the United States of America, I don't expect him. Maybe it's going to slant American.
Destiny, do you think that most people trust politicians more than they trust the media? I think most people trust the media over politicians because they're told politicians lie and the media are the ones that unpack what they say, if anything.
Everybody trusts media, okay? When you say to somebody, do you trust the media? Do you trust the media? What they're saying is, I don't trust the media, I disagree with. The media. What does the media mean? Everybody watches media. What is the media? I guess you could say some people it means corporate media, some people it means Fox News, some people it means MSNBC, CNN. Typically, I think people just say, no, I don't trust the media, but they do watch Tucker Carlson, but they do watch Rachel Maddow, but they do watch, I don't know, Tim Pool, or they do listen to the New York Times, or they do read the Daily Wire. Like,
most people
I
probably
hate those
think
polls. The polls tell you nothing about like confidence in media or whatever. It's just like, oh my God, bro. People don't have the necessary media literacy to know what's good or bad media anyway.
CNN is more reliable than their average politician. And that's why instead of holding one over the other, I hold everyone with a megaphone to the same standard.
But that doesn't work because you're assuming this insulation that exists in the media from politicians. But it doesn't work that way. Trump would literally listen to Fox News and then go on to talk about stuff that they said like later on that day. Or Trump or Trump's people would be like talking to people commonly from Fox News. They're not these completely and totally separate entities. Like the politicians and the media like oftentimes communicate and reciprocate each other's messaging. I don't think it's just one or the other.
But like earlier, I mean, you brought up Hannity and Fox, and like these are obviously not the majority of the media. Obviously,
well,
the majority of the mainstream
News,
media is going to be CNN, MSNBC. Fox News is huge, absolutely.
Fox News is the largest single media outlet in the United States. That's my understanding. So I mean, like, it's not like they're irrelevant.
No, I didn't say that. I don't think they are.
Okay. Well, so I mean, like, there are a lot of people that and also I'm pretty sure by polling data, people do trust in the president more than they do in the media.
I'd be shocked if that were true. I mean, show me. I would seriously be shocked. And maybe it's just different in Australia, but no, everyone, doesn't even matter if they're left wing, right wing. They all just say politicians are cunts and don't trust anything they say. So maybe that's just a cultural difference compared to the U.S.
Hold on one second. Also, people say things, but
that they do.
Are they gonna get to any spicy topics? I'm gonna do a little bit faster till they get to something more interesting that I can comment on. Silence.
I'm reading this.
Silence.
Yep.
Silence. Echoes are auto-censored.
Okay, so on this polling, when I'm looking down at the bottom here, so like I'm looking at how much do Republicans trust something versus how much do Democrats trust something. So like Republicans trust newspapers at 8% and they trust the presidency at 13%, or they trust like television news at 6%, or they trust presidency at 13%. Yeah. Sure, but it's still higher. But I mean, like, I think that Trump also played a lot into undermining people's trust of the media as well. Oh, and this was also done in July of 2021. So
honestly, looking at the media lately, they kind of deserved it, even if it was, no matter if it was Trump or Biden or Obama or whoever was saying, hey, start questioning the media a bit.
Yeah, but the problem is people didn't question
the media. They publish so much bullshit.
But you say that.
You've had stories published about you that are like Destiny is a big racist, evil, whatever. Like, the media publish nonsense all the time.
But the problem is people didn't become critical of the media. They went from believing everything the media said to believing everything the alternative media says, which is even worse. That's the problem.
Good take.
Yeah, have I had some dumb stories published on me? Sure. That absolutely exists on places like Slate or whatever. I've had some decent stuff posted on me as well.
God, you get into this Jimmy Dore, Kyle Kolesky bubble where they're like, you are here because I am the truth teller. I am the person telling you the truth. They will not tell you the truth of the world. They won't, but I will.
When it comes to alternative media talking, I mean, Ralph said that I was under investigation for child porn. Okay, like the Ralph Retort people. Like, I've had tons of insane shit said about me by alternative media stuff, and I'm willing to bet that when it comes to you, I bet some of the worst stuff came out of like fucking 4chan or some of the lefty fucking YouTubers and shit as well. But so like, there's another problem too, where people are like, oh, be critical of the media, just like think for yourself or whatever. People didn't do that. They just turned to alternative media instead, which tells even worse lies than the mainstream media.
Aren't you the alternative media?
Absolutely, yeah, of course.
Well, then is it bad that people have started listening to you to hear their news instead of just trusting everything they read on CNN or sites that say you're a racist?
I'm not saying that you should just trust everything, but in the alternative media and in the mainstream media, you can find like good sources of information. Like even in alternative media, there's going to be some places of information that's probably going to be better than others. Same thing with mainstream media. It's very rare that you're going to read like on the ground reporting from like Reuters or the Associated Press that's just completely fucking like a lie. I think that's incredibly rare. Now, if you start going to CNN or Fox, maybe if you get into punditry, it's going to be way different, of course. But you can still find good sources and like you can still find like good sources out there. But like there's just people will act certain ways if they are truly meaning what they say. So for instance, when people say shit like, oh, I don't trust the media anymore, I do my own research. Like, oh, really? What kind of research do you do? And they just start linking me like, oh, here, I read every single meme that's posted on this Instagram page called Trump will rise above all 2024. And like, and it's like, what the fuck? You're not thinking about anything. You're not being critical of the media. You've just been suckered by some other alternative media that's now selling ads and
so it sounds like there's just shit media everywhere. And you can find good media in the mainstream and terrible media in the mainstream. And you can find good and terrible media in alternative spheres as well. But it's almost good that we've fostered a bit of distrust in the sense of trust but verify question. And I agree that there's a problem when people run from one problem.
Oh, I disagree. Nobody verifies anything. Nobody knows anything. They just say, I don't trust this because it makes me feel uncomfortable. If it makes me feel uncomfortable, it's not correct. I did my research. I saw the meme about Joe Biden on Xanax. Joe Biden definitely fell asleep during his meeting with the Israeli prime minister. Trust me.
To another, and we should probably tell people, get your information from a multitude of sources, read multiple outlets, so then you can weigh and balance what you think is more accurate.
You know what I was thinking about the other day? A lot of the more reputable news sources online are behind paywalls, which makes it difficult. So like if you click on the Daily Wire, you might get in right away, read an article real quick. But if you go to Wall Street Journal or New York Times or whatever, you're going to have to pay whatever dollars a month to read their stuff, which makes people click off it. It makes me click off it.
Or truthful within those reports, especially sites which actually reference the documents, the legal documents that have been released, video, whatever it may be. But I don't think that this condemnation of Trump or Republicans saying, hey, question the mainstream media is...
No, I don't buy that. People don't have the ability. They were never taught how to verify things, because a lot of the stuff that I come up against, for example, immigrants, people who believe immigrants are like killers and rapists or whatever. You can Google immigrant or like you can Google illegal immigrant crime rate and find results in like 10 seconds. You can find, hey, their crime rate is lower from naturalized citizens or like from natural born citizens. If you're illegal in America, if you're an illegal immigrant, you can Google that and get that information in 10 seconds. But people don't have the ability to. People have the time to verify information, just like they have the time to watch an hour-long Facebook and YouTube video about anti-vax conspiracy theory. They just don't know how to verify media, whatever. But we need media literacy courses in like America. I don't even know how that would be done effectively, but we need some standard for understanding what's real and fake. Even if like mainstream media isn't perfect and they have a lot of flaws and they have a lot of power serving, if a lot of what they do serves the powerful, which would be like a Marxian analysis of like different conflicts in society, the media serves the rich. Even if they do, they have a lot more real information and truthful information than independent media does, because people will gravitate to the sensational stuff no matter what. So like Tim Pool and stuff, and they tell complete lies. So it's hard. I don't know.
I don't think that's
Trump didn't say question the mainstream media. Trump said the media is the enemy of the people, and then plugged like InfoWars. If Trump
did he plug InfoWars? I think he did InfoWars, but he's done CNN too. I don't know if he plugged it. If he did,
there was also the OANN or whatever people that he always had every press conference. Trump did not just say.
Of course, he's going to plug an outlet that is going to treat him more favorably.
You can try to make these equivalent all you want, but no president has attacked the media in the same way that Trump did. No.
Has any president other than Trump ever championed alternative media sources or any media source? Has that ever happened? Other than like their own stuff, like a fireside chat from FDR, like has any president ever done that?
Nobody.
But do they deserve? The question is, do the media deserve the level of scrutiny?
Dude, I took sociology in high school. It was taught by a conservative, and I did not get real sociology out of it.
They are receiving, and I think that the answer is yes, they do.
There is no scrutiny for alternative
when it comes to an alternative. I think there's a lot of scrutiny from alternative media. And here is the ultimate divide in America, is the mainstream media are constantly tripping over themselves to scrutinize alternative media, especially right-wing alternative media, as just being all horrific, stupid, conspiracies, blah, blah, blah. And then the alternative media, and certainly Republicans, are all trying to scrutinize the mainstream media as being stupid, lying. And it's kind of scary because when the mainstream media lie, they have way more authority behind them, or historical authority, although it's crumbling very fast. And it's both people calling out the shit on either side. And the problem is we used to have a media in America, North America, that would call out the lapses in both the left and the right when they said dumb conspiratorial blue and or QAnon and shit. But now we just have a media that go out here and question QAnon quite accurately and fairly, but prop up blue Anon conspiracies like Umbrella Man was a far-right winger who started BLM riots in 2020, and now we have proof that the right were actually the reason for leftist violence. That is the fundamental problem here.
So the fundamental problem is the level of accountability. Whatever conspiracy that you just talked about, I've never heard that before. Now, I'm sure there might have been some left-leaning site that maybe published that story. Maybe
I wouldn't say conservatives can't teach responsibly. I want to stay away from that rhetoric. My issue is not really conservatives. I know a lot of liberals who are unable to teach, and they believe some weird stuff about the world. My issue is people in America today who vote like very strongly in the QAnon direction, they don't qualify as conservatives. I know conservatives who believe in things like socioeconomic outcomes. So if you are poor, you go through a lot of stuff, and we have to make sure people are less poor. We can't blame everything on individual responsibility and pretend we can't pretend it's a meritocracy. Who you meet matters, how much money you have matters, who your parents are matters, all that stuff matters. But these conservatives have conservative solutions to the problems. So they don't want to fund any local like government agency or whatever. I would want to do that as my solution. But they do want to offer business incentives or whatever to bring businesses in so that incomes improve and all that stuff. You can say they are actual conservatives, but in America today, if you are like a conspiracy theorist and you are literally just like a social justice, anti-social justice culture warrior on the right, you're not really, I wouldn't consider you a straight conservative in the classic like actual sense of what it should be in America. We don't really have a word for it yet, but I don't want to say fascist. I know VAUSH always says the average Republican would vote Hitler, which is a dumb rhetoric. That's really just dumb to say, even if it might be true if you look at historical analysis or whatever. It's just a dumb thing to say, but like, yeah, it's hard. We don't have a word to differentiate different people.
No, I'm going to be charitable and say that.
No, this is
but that makes you run into issues, because if I want to criticize a Republican politician for not helping people, I don't want to say, oh, Republicans are evil, Republicans are bad, because with our partisan politics, people identify with parties. So if a Republican voter hears me say Republicans are bad, they are going to hear, I think Republican voters are bad, when I actually mean Republican politicians are not serving their constituents. But it's hard to walk that rhetorical line. How do I criticize Republican politicians or the Republican Party, since people's identities are so closely tied to those political parties?
Stream. This was like the Washington Post.
Okay, there might have been a post about it, but that is
Kevin J. Kate, what's up? Chippy. Yeah, that's my you know what name that is.
That is just not the same level of there is not the same.
Wait, sorry, did I miss it? Did you say that Trump threw reporters in prison?
No.
Okay, good.
I know that I know that Republicans are really keen to get on the topic. What about that time Obama kicked people out of the blah, blah, blah. They are not even remote. If you want to have a whole, I would bet my life on it. I'll be your slave or kill, or in a video game. Never mind. I will. If anybody wanted to have a conversation over who attacked the media more, Obama versus Trump, people want to. What about Obama so fucking hard? Where they'll be like, oh, what about the time Obama did the thing with the dude? It was not even remotely close. Trump undermined the media as an institution more than.
But that's another thing too. I mean, we have to agree. We have to agree on solutions, or no, not solutions. We have to agree on what reality is and what problems are. So we can address those problems. We can't even debate on how to solve things if we don't agree that they're problems. So a lot of people that hate like BLM and stuff, they'll say, poor white people have problems too. Well, yeah, all poor people have problems. We can get to the reason that black people have it worse in America. But first, what do you want to do to help poor white people? If that's your big concern, that's why you don't like BLM, what do you actually want to do to help poor white people? And don't give me some bullshit Trump fix that's like we have to deport everybody from America. That isn't true. That isn't what's hurting white people in rural America. That is not what's hurting them and making them poor. They usually don't want to have any fix to the opioid epidemic. I want to hear your solutions. If you really care about helping poor white people, show me, idiot. Show me you want to help poor people overall, if that's really your big issue. Because they always talk about, we got to end wars, we got to stop spending money in other countries. But then we say, like, hey, we should be funding programs to help people get off their feet in America, to make sure they're able to live productive lives, which not only helps them themselves, but it also helps our communities, and also businesses are better in capitalism if workers are more well equipped to do their jobs. But we can't even get to that point in this conversation, because it's all bogged down by this dumb culture war BS about BLM and Marxism and holy crap, bro. Like, I hate it. Let's talk about policy, baby.
But did they deserve it?
No,
is the question.
not to that level.
Do
no,
the media?
No. Not to that level. Absolutely not. And for you to try to pretend that, like, yeah, sometimes the media published shit that was wrong or stupid, like Trump, like, dumping his fish food into the fish with the president, and it wasn't actually a real story, it was just them being fucking dumb. To try to compare stuff like that to all of these alternative media outlets pushing stuff like the vaccine conspiracy shit or stuff related to, like, all the drugs. But you do.
I'm saying the shit on both sides.
No,
and
you're saying it's all the same, but it's not.
Okay. Would you not agree that if an accredited journalistic source, like let's say like the New York Times, publishes something that is misinformation, that is probably going to be more dangerous than some weird Annan's 100 view YouTube video saying that, fertilizer will cure COVID?
Not anymore, unfortunately, no. I truly think that the other thing is more harmful. Because if you look at the polling data now, and I can go find this, although you probably will believe it, more Americans today get their news from places like Facebook than they do from, like, mainstream media sources.
Like what on Facebook? Because there's plenty of mainstream media sources on Facebook and pages.
Do you think somebody's getting their news
the
on...
top recommended posts on Facebook are all like Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder because of how the algorithms work. The algorithms give all the clicks to the more sensational content. So like Ben Shapiro owning liberal college students is going to go really far. By the way, 70 viewers right now, 2:45 a.m. Shout out to y'all for watching. Thank you. Please drop a like on the stream. I might not be a professional streamer, but I do my best to do good content and stuff, bringing back the policy talk somewhat. Yeah, join the Discord, come chat
on Facebook. It's all coming from the mainstream media.
I mean, they're probably some of the top sources on Facebook and top followed pages, and unfortunately they also partake in the same level of just sharing memes. Look at you look at all these 5-minute videos from VAUSH and all these sites that just condense this complex story to 2 minutes, and everyone liked it because it said Republican bad or Democrat bad in those 2 minutes, and it's just a really bad clip.
You are the best stream. Thank you. Thank you. That's not true, but thank you.
Video of one of the politicians saying something stupid. I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to believe that lack of context to information is just as bad as misinformation itself.
And I agree with that.
I
think at times that happens, and I don't even watch Vox videos anymore because when I'm very familiar with it, I realize like this is pretty dumb. But there's a big difference between like Vox publishes a dumb video that leaves out context or is legitimately misinformation that's bad versus like the society is breaking down now and is being destroyed by the level of like alternative media information that exists today. I don't know where we go.
Dude, this made me sad. I just saw this and it made me sad. I know it's dumb, but it made me so sad when I saw it. Look at this. Tails has passed away. It feels bad, man. R.I.P. Tails, R.I.P. Tails.
But I know alternative media isn't the answer because most alternative media is absolute dog shit. I mean, like we can do a whole day on like fucking like if some alternative media outlets were held to the same standard as mainstream media outlets, Project Veritas wouldn't exist anymore. That would have went under. Like almost every major investigation that they've been under or that they've like been in charge of has petered out into nothing. Has been complete fake news. Has been decontextualized clips. Like that's almost all they've done. But there's no accountability there. James is still running around trying to clip people in a 2-second cell phone video. Like that's all they do. I don't know how you can compare and say that like the alternative media is this like good challenge to the mainstream media when they just aren't. So much alternative media is garbage.
Okay, so let me read you a headline here. An ex-KGB agent says Trump was a Russian asset since 1987. Does it matter? Where do you think that headline came from?
I have no idea.
But if you had to guess, do you think that would come from like something on BitChute?
Well, seeing as how you're trying to make a point, I'm guessing it came from something like CNN or MSNBC or Washington Post.
Yeah, it came from MSNBC, and that's what I mean. Like some of the headlines in these mainstream articles, you actually can't even differentiate.
Wait, link me the article. Link me the article.
Okay. Most media starts out as alternative until it gets money and sources, and then stories that would generally be called crazy and alternative stories just become mainstream, and people accept them because it's mainstream and repeated by these big sources. So I would say the misinformation is just as stupid for mainstream media. We just don't think it's as bad as alternative media because the alternative media don't have as good graphics as the mainstream when they publish their shit.
Okay, hold on. Okay, firstly, one of us is fucking up really hard here. MSN is not the same as MSNBC, right?
Oh, MSN.com.
Okay.
My apologies. Still, I don't think you would disagree that MSN.com is a mainstream.
Wait, are they not tied at all? I never knew that. Wait, MSN and MSNBC. I always thought MSN was like Microsoft Network. Is it Microsoft Network? And then MSNBC was broadcasting at the end? Microsoft Network broadcasting? Am I wrong? Have I been wrong my entire life?
We're not considering that's like Yahoo. Or this is not like a number one. And number two, this is an opinion piece. It literally says it. I think that this is a different thing than like the standard.
Okay, well, 99% of alternative media is opinion shit too.
But they don't present themselves that way. Like when you listen to somebody like Tim Pool or Alex Jones or any of these guys, like they don't present themselves as just my opinions. They present themselves as like they're delivering the news.
Okay, wait. Let me see. Sorry, 1 minute. I'm just looking something up.
Oh, and I thought you were asking me a question, but this is part of the headline. I don't think there's anything wrong with this headline. An ex-KGB agent says Trump was a Russian asset since 1987. Does it matter? I mean, like, it seems like even in the title, the guy's making fun of the headline. Like, let's say that an ex-KGB agent did say that. Does it even matter? Like, I don't even think this headline is necessarily bad.
Okay. So I'm just trying to confirm something here.
Wait, an opinion piece this is? Like, look at what this opinion piece said. This is why you can't trust MSN. MSM. Mainstream media. No, I think Destiny's doing a good job.
Yeah, look at the. Okay, so first of
He
all,
looks
John
kinda
Gottschalk, the
dumb,
guy
in
who
my
wrote this
opinion.
article, is an accredited journalist for the New York Meg. You can look him up. Sorry, I just
Okay.
lost my tab. New Republic, American Prospect. Yeah, New York Magazine. He writes for. Verified journalist, New York Meg, 206K followers. So I don't think asserting that this is just some random story is quite fair. And then he concludes the article. I somehow lost it in my links here. Sorry. Let me open it again. He concludes the article by saying that the truth, I suspect, was simultaneously about as bad as I suspected and paradoxically anticlimactic. Trump was surrounded by all sorts of odious characters, manipulated him into saying and doing things that ran against the national interest, ran up against the limits that they character over whom they had gained influence was a weak, failed president. So this is once again, like, this is what you see in alternative media that try to lie as well. They'll take something that's shaky, and then with the opinion piece, they'll build it up and be like, okay, so maybe we don't have proof, but he was around Putin a lot, which means they did start to influence him a lot. And you know what? Even though they influenced him, the reason the Russians couldn't execute everything they wanted to do was just because the president was weak and failed. So it's the same thing, the exact same thing that alternative media
Okay,
did.
Can I read this article? Because I don't.
Yes, go
this
ahead.
actually seems like a perfectly fine article. When I come across something that sounds absolutely ridiculous, tell me when to stop. Okay. An ex-KGB agent says Trump was a Russian asset since 1987. Does it matter? In 2018, I became either famous or notorious, depending on your point of view, for writing a story speculating that Russia had secret leverage over Trump, which turned out to be correct. The story's most controversial suggestion was that it was plausible, though hardly certain, that Russia's influence over Trump might even date back as far as 1987. Here is what I wrote in that controversial section. During the Soviet era, Russian intelligence cast a wide net to gain leverage over influential figures abroad. The practice continues to this day. The Russians would lure or entrap not only prominent politicians and cultural leaders, but also people whom they saw as having the potential for gaining prominence in the future. In 1986, Soviet ambassador Yuri Dubinin met Trump in New York, flattered him with praise for his building exploits, and invited him to discuss a building in Moscow. Trump visited Moscow in July of 1987. He stayed at the National Hotel in the Lenin Suite, which certainly would have been bugged. There is not much else in the public record to describe his visit except Trump's own recollection in The Art of the Deal that Soviet officials were eager for him to build a hotel there. It never happened. Trump returned from Moscow fired up with political ambition. He began the first of a long series of presidential flirtations, which included a flashy trip to New Hampshire. 2 months after his Moscow visit, Trump spent almost $100,000 on a series of full-page newspaper ads that published a political manifesto, an open letter from Donald J. Trump on why America should stop paying to defend countries that can afford to defend themselves, as Trump labeled it, launched angry populist charges against the allies that benefited from the umbrella of American military protection. Why are these nations not paying the United States for the human lives and billions of dollars we are losing to protect their interests? I conceded it was probably just a coincidence that Trump came back from his trip to Russia and started spouting themes that happened to dovetail closely with Russia's geopolitical goal of splitting the United States from its allies. But there was a reasonable chance, I loosely pegged it at 10 or 20%, that the Soviets had planned some of these thoughts, which he had planted some of these thoughts.
This is a conspiracy theory. And you're just willing to believe.
It's a funny story, bro. My favorite part about independent media is everything is an opinion piece. Like, literally everything in independent media is an opinion piece because there's no way to make sure anything is correct or anything. Most of it is an opinion piece, unless if they hold themselves to a higher standard.
It? He literally said, I speculate that Russia had leverage over Trump, which turned out to be correct without ever asserting any leverage. And he keeps saying, I suspect, and you're just willing to believe all of this?
Hold on. He says that he pegs it at 10 or 20%, and it's an opinion piece. Like, what do you expect from this? Like,
the idea that Trump has connections in Russia that incentivizes him to be nice to his business interests there isn't really far-fetched.
Do an opinion piece speculating that, you know, Obama is controlled by another country. That's perfectly fine if I just say I peg it at 10 or 20% or something.
If you say that Obama went and visited Kenya and then he came back after being involved, and Kenya had like a history of trying to like persuade politicians through blackmail of doing big investments in the country, and Obama came back right after and was like, you know what, I'm going to run for senator, and when I'm senator, I want to start the Kenyan reconstruction bill, and we're going to send 100 million USA to it. And you wanted to write an op-ed, and you're like, you know, he went to Kenya, they do this shit, he came back, and you know, he did run for senator. No, it's probably only like a 20% chance. Yeah, I think that's a fair article to write. I think that's totally fair, sure.
Oh my gosh.
Do you understand there's a huge difference between doing that and saying, like a lot of alternative media does, saying this thing absolutely happened because of this one email that we saw?
You are asserting all alternative media when you are alternative media yourself, man. I'm showing you an article in the mainstream media that is clearly an opinion piece conspiracy theory.
It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a fine piece.
He said he had, which turned out to be correct, that Russia had leverage over Trump without providing any example of the leverage except for his own opinion. This is a conspiracy theory. This is blue and on stuff. That Trump has been a KGB agent that, or has been an asset of Russia since 1987. This is absurd. And anyone in the alternative media published something like this, oh, I think there's a 10 to 20% chance that ivermectin is going to cure your COVID, you would be going ballistic over it, even if they had the science behind it.
Because there's a huge difference between saying something has a 10 to 20% chance to cure a disease versus saying there's like a 10 to 20% chance.
Versus saying your president is controlled by the Russians? What?
What?
So do you think that like...
yeah, if I say like, you know, I have an opinion about this. I'd say there's like a 20% chance it happened. I don't know. Maybe he has some influence. Maybe Trump is influenced by the Russians. If you say that versus like, if you take this medication, you will survive a nuclear holocaust. Trust me. There is a 90% chance COVID is healed after you take ivermectin. And I know this because I had COVID and I injected ivermectin right into my veins and I healed instantly. Like, making those two claims, one is like a dumb opinion piece, just saying random stuff about like, yeah, I'd say there's a 20% chance, versus literally claiming medical fact about how a medication functions. Those are two. Oh my God, bro. Oh.
You should just never be allowed then to write anything like this? Like, would you say that this article counts as misinformation?
I mean, I think it's pretty silly. I think, yeah, it's probably portraying it this way and saying that he correctly found leverage that the Russians had over Trump without providing any. Yeah, that's misinformation.
Wait, hold on. What part of this?
But I don't think it should be illegal. But what's the secret leverage that the Russians had over Trump?
Wait, hold on. Which part of this did he say?
Which he asserts in the first sentence.
Hold on.
Okay. In 2018, I became either famous or notorious, depending on your point of view, for writing a story speculating that Russia had secret leverage over Trump, which turned out to be correct.
I'd have to click through to his New York Mag and read this much larger story to see what part he's talking about.
This is clearly him trying to assert that this was correct in the rest of this article.
I mean, if you want, I can read this whole New York Mag article, but I haven't read this. I don't know. This is
I don't know what she expects Destiny to say. Like, I am the good alternative media. I am the good one. Like, I know that I hold myself to a higher standard, but I also know that if I wanted to, I can lie about everything without any repercussion. Unless if I literally tell people to do like a drug that'll kill them, like ivermectin, then maybe I'll get like banned from YouTube for a couple days. But like, if Destiny wanted to go full Tim Pool, Mike from PA, and grift and make tons of money, he can do that. But he himself holds him to a higher standard. His incentives are probably negative. He probably has incentives to do worse content that has less journalistic integrity. But he himself makes the decision to not do that, you know?
And like my chat are like, why would you write an article for a mainstream media source about something that you admit is only 10 to 20% likely, and then conclude with, well, even if I'm not right, like, we know that the Russians were influencing him anyway. Trump was surrounded by all sorts of odious characters who manipulated him into saying and doing things. Like, how is that not a fucking insane statement about the president of your country? One of those characters was Putin.
You're overblowing so much.
I'm overblowing it. This article isn't?
No, because when I read the article, like, the language is all like relatively conservative. Like, even the
Alex Jones says there's a 20% chance pedophile Jews are trying to kill you without any evidence. You'd be flipping over backwards to say this is insane.
Do you want to compare an Alex Jones article to something like this? If you can show me a place where Alex Jones make an insane claim and he says like, there's probably only a 10 to 20% chance that's true, I would be shocked. Like, are we serious? You think it's the same here? Like, if you want, we can start finding.
Yeah, that's a good point he just made. Alex Jones never says, yeah, this might be true. There's some information. This person in this opinion article gave points and actual like Trump business ties and stuff he actually did to say, I'd say there's a small chance, maybe 20% chance Trump is being controlled or like being influenced by Russians, versus Alex Jones, who gets on the microphone and literally says like, I know there's a chemical in the water right now turning the frogs gay. And he says that as absolute fact.
Like, I can try to search for like daily news or I don't even know what the fuck the Alex Jones show is.
He's never showed any skepticism.
Here we go. If there's an article that suggests there's a 10 to 20% chance the election was stolen, we're not quite sure, we have to go through the information yet. Do you think that would be responsible reporting?
If they said that there was a process by which we could rely on the
But yeah, like Nighthawk said, this person isn't reporting. It's an opinion article.
On verifying if the election was stolen or not? Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that.
Okay, and then if they concluded the article with saying, well, even if it wasn't stolen, we know that Biden was surrounded by odious characters who would have manipulated him into doing and saying things that were against the national interest. One of those characters wanted the election to be in Biden's favor. And in the end, we know, like, if they ended the article with that kind of language, basically suggesting, even if we don't have the facts, it's likely that it's true anyways, because insert words like manipulation, insert words like they're against the national interest, you would hate that. And we both know that.
We're reading this article in very different ways.
Yes, you're being extremely charitable to something you don't want characterized as misinformation because it makes you lose the conversation.
No, I'm not being charitable. First of all, even in the very beginning, for writing a story that Russia had secret leverage over Trump, that I don't know what he's referring to there. So, for instance, if he's referring to stuff related to Michael Flynn, that is actually true. If he's referring to the fact that Trump owes a lot of money in other countries, for instance, Russia, that is true. I don't know what, but you're trying to attack me because I haven't read this like 35-minute New York Mag read to try to figure out like what he's referring to.
Talk about it another time after you read it, but I guarantee you, there's a hell of a lot of misinformation about.
You can make a much stronger claim with the information we do have. You can make a strong claim that's like, Trump does have business ties in Russia. He does have these connections. Trump's kids have said explicitly, we have interests in Russia. Therefore, I would say there's a really good chance. I might even give it like a 90% chance that Trump has a lot of connections in Russia that are influencing his political decisions. Like you can make a much stronger claim based off the information that this person gave in the opinion piece.
Russia and Trump's links to them in the mainstream media, some of which the headlines do read like they could be a random 50-view video on some conspiracy website. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of people in the mainstream media who really do want to believe blue and on stuff, and they will work their best, no matter how many caveats of maybe possibly 10%, 20% they have to put in to get it published.
That might be the case, but this article, as I've read it, and I'm pretty sure I've finished reading it, this article is not really that bad, and it's pretty conservative with its language. You're trying to take like a couple, first of all, you're giving me just the headline, which even the headline isn't that bad, but you tried to stick it with just the headline, and now you're going to the last paragraph, which again, even admits the truth, I suspect, was simultaneously about as bad as I expected, and paradoxically anticlimactic, which is actually the realistic like interpretation of Trump's association with Russians. Did Trump have Russian friends? He's a billionaire, of course. Did some of those Russian friends try to exert influence over him? Almost certainly. That probably always happens. But was Trump like a fucking pawn of Putin and was able to fuck our whole political system? Probably not. He didn't really get that much done. That isn't. I don't think any part of that is even that controversial of an opinion. If you want to find me like an equivalent article that's like that wanders a little bit or asks questions about Biden, feel free to shoot me this. But you better believe that the coverage about Hunter was nowhere near as carefully like worded as this. The stuff about Hunter Biden and the stuff about Burisma and all of that, that shit was insane. And it was so much more aggressive. There was no, there's a 10 or 20% chance. It was Hunter got money through Burisma and Biden took that money and he fucking went. He got rid of that fucking prosecutor all alone, unilaterally. Like, it was way fucking different.
And who are you talking about publishing this stuff? Because if I honestly, I can say I have not deep dived into the Hunter Biden stuff. I know there was a bit of a cover up from his laptop stuff coming out from the New York Post. But was there like mass information that came out with Hunter's laptop? If so, I'm against it, obviously.
Sure, there was no Hunter's laptop. That was totally fabricated. And
are you serious?
Yes. And I would have to go back and look through Fox News, but I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure I listened to them talk about this on Fox News.
The first thing that came out when I look up the Hunter Biden laptop, is it fake? Is the Wall Street Journal saying the Hunter Biden laptop is real? But let me read it.
Hold on. I mean, all the secret files on the Hunter Biden laptop that confirmed the actual laptop is real. It was probably left like in a shop somewhere. But all of the top secret files that confirm like all the shady dealings, or whatever, that is absolutely not true. None of that was true. It was never turned into the FBI, or it might have been, but they didn't find anything on it. Nobody pulled any big files off of it to like leak any. It was like some fucking porn videos of Hunter Biden like fucking a girl while smoking crack.
Oh, that's what I thought it was. That's literally like I was just under the impression there were videos of him smoking crack on it.
But that wasn't the original claims. The original claims was a huge conspiracy that they asserted that Hunter and Joe were working together to like push this prosecutor out to get like favorable business dealings with.
Bro, they said that absolute. They took no time to even like verify anything. They were like, yes, there is a connection here. Hunter Biden is corrupt. He did get the job, and Joe Biden, you know what? He what was the thing with the prosecutor? Biden was making decisions from the executive branch on behalf of Hunter Biden, baby.
Company that Hunter Biden was like.
And it was just like a laptop with like Hunter Biden smoking crack or whatever.
Sitting on the chair of. It was way, way, way more extreme than that. It wasn't just like Hunter Biden porn videos. And like every single mainstream, I even heard Rush Limbaugh talk about this. I know I'd have to go back and look at it, but I know I saw Tucker Carlson.
Are you talking about the Hunter Biden Ukraine stuff?
Yes.
I wasn't aware that had anything to do with the laptop. I thought the laptop was just crack and pictures of him doing embarrassing things.
Why would we care about that?
In my head or somebody
Why would
but I'm
that
pretty
be
sure
reported
that
on? I'm not even subscribed to Destiny. Look at me. I'm not even subscribed to him. Stealing all this content.
A lot of that started with the laptop. When they found the laptop, that was when a lot of that stuff started to be started.
You mean the Burisma? To my understanding,
okay.
Yeah, for me, I didn't connect the two. Maybe it came out at the same time, and so lots of people mixed channels, probably even me, but from my understanding at this point, certainly. Okay, here, in October, this is from the wiki page, not that I trust wiki these days. So New York Post published an article with the involvement of Donald Trump's personal attorney Giuliani and former chief strategist Steve Bannon about a found laptop allegedly belonging to Hunter Biden. The laptop contained an email, the authenticity of which was not verified, which showed what the New York Post characterized as a meeting between Joe Biden and a Burisma advisor in 2015, though that characterization was disputed by witnesses. The article's veracity was strongly questioned by most in the mainstream media, analysts and intelligence officials, due to the questionable provenance of the laptop and its contents, and the suspicion it may have been a part of a disinformation campaign. So even Wikipedia is still portraying this as questionable, so I'm going to have to read, honestly, I will have to read into this to find out what the truth is, because Lord knows, you're not going to find it through one Google search.
Sure, we can do a whole thing on the Hunter Biden stuff, but the New York Post ran headlines for fucking weeks related to this shit. Also, just real quick, I'm pulling a quick paragraph out of the New York Mag article, which that MSN writer had originally written. So he says, it's not difficult to imagine that Russia quickly had something on Trump from either exploits during his 1987 visit or any subsequent embarrassing behavior the KGB assets might have uncovered. But the other leverage Russia enjoyed over Trump for at least 15 years is indisputable. In fact, his family has admitted to it multiple times. After a series of financial reversals and his brazen abuse of bankruptcy laws, Trump found it impossible to borrow from American banks and grew heavily reliant on unconventional sources of capital. Russian cash proved his salvation. From 2003 to 2017, people from the former USSR made 86 all-cash purchases, a red flag of potential money laundering of Trump properties totaling $109 million. In 2010, private wealth division of Deutsche Bank also loaned him hundreds of millions of dollars during the same period it was laundering billions in Russian money. Russians make up a pretty disproportionate cross-section of a lot of our assets, said Donald Jr. in 2008. We don't rely on American banks. We have all the money we need out of Russia, boasted Eric Trump in 2014. Let me finish. So going back to his original MSN article, then, if that was his claim that Russia
She's laughing again. She's laughing. Another defense mechanism. She was on her heels the entire time. Destiny was kind of slowly dissecting her arguments and picking them apart. He didn't really take any huge rhetorical leaps or anything, because I don't think he feels really confident on any of these topics, or like confident enough to really go ham on it. So I'm saying he himself a lot tonight. So he is sorting through the information himself, and he doesn't want to go out on any ledges because he doesn't know where the solid footing is, so he can't really take any chances.
Have potential leverage over Trump. I think that assuming everything he said there was true, then that is actually true.
Sorry, in this article, they said potential for all of these things with Hunter as well. So this article is really no different than the one I showed you with all the conspiracies of Trump with Putin. It's all potential, maybe, perhaps, this happened. And all this it does is continue to prove my point, because the New York Post would not be considered alternative media. This is just more misinformation from mainstream. If that's true, I have to look through it myself. If it's true,
I'm not saying, I never said that all mainstream media is good and all alternative media is bad. I'm just saying there's way less accountability in alternative media. That's all I'm saying.
But you're reading me a mainstream article that seemingly you're worried about has no accountability.
Wait, no, I'm reading from the New York Mag right now. And then this was the article that the other guy had written about that was sourced from that MSN article where he said that, oh, well, this turned out to be true. And you said, no, he made that up.
Okay, sorry, wait. Can you send that? Okay.
Here, sure. This is a much longer thing.
Sorry, I thought we were still talking about the Hunter Biden stuff.
No, okay, sorry. I'm going over.
Sorry,
okay.
You jumped to another topic.
I jumped back. You linked me the MSN opinion piece, and then you said that this guy made a claim right at the beginning that wasn't true, that something turned out to be true that wasn't, and then I
thought you were talking about misinformation from New York Meg with Hunter Biden. I lost you there.
Oh no, sorry. This has to do with. I'm sorry. This had to do with the MSN.
Okay, I'm checking this.
It's the same author. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll do a quick search of his words. Where is the proof that he says in this?
Oh, search for I think from
Boring.
2000.
We gotta go
type
quicker.
From, and then do space and then 2000.
We gotta go quicker. Let's go. Zoom in.
Okay, so from 2003 to 2017, people from the former USSR made 86 all-cash purchases, a red flag of potential money laundering of Trump properties totaling 109 million. So wait. So is this supposed to be the leverage that some of their assets are owned by Russians?
Mm-hmm. So Donald Jr. in 2008 said Russians make up a pretty disproportionate cross-section of a lot of our assets. In 2014, he said, we don't rely on American banks. We have all the funding needed in
I
Russia.
think that's enough. Is she going to say anything else?
From Eric Trump.
Okay, so I'm going to have to look into that way more to see what actual percentage of assets, because 109 million doesn't actually sound like that much compared to...
Oh my... dude. Bro, really? Really? 109 million? Okay.
What Trump's net worth probably
Well,
is.
your net worth doesn't matter.
Or how much he owns.
Oh my... Oh,
how much
cope.
he has
Well, it's
in
about
business.
how much liquid
Compared
cash
to
you have
billions.
available to you, right?
Compared to billions, you know?
You can laugh, but if you have 2 billion in assets, I
That's
can find you a lot
that's still over 1/10 of a billion. What the hell is she saying?
people with technically...
And also
hundreds
this-
hold on. Just because you have billions in assets doesn't mean you want to have to start liquidating your fucking business in order to buy things, okay? Especially when you're juggling a lot of debt at the same time. So the cash is $100 million in cash is a lot of money to even somebody with a net worth of 2 billion. Because that 2 billion is going to be largely tied up in assets that you don't have to liquidate in order to do like other business investments.
So, okay, I mean, like I said, I'll have to look into this deeper, but would you agree that most politicians, Democrat or Republican, have business dealings in different countries, including Russia?
To the
Burisma,
extent that Trump
other
does,
places?
absolutely not. But I'll be charitable here. It doesn't surprise me as much because Trump is a billionaire and most politicians don't have that level of wealth. I would be curious. I would say it's probably a very slim minority of Americans have like own businesses or own buildings or whatever in other countries. That's probably like a really small percentage. Also, it's a lot different to say an individual congressperson or senator has like a building somewhere else versus the president of the United States.
Okay, and do you think it's fair to say because someone has business dealings in another country, the leader of the other country and their government has leverage over you in a political sense, and then tie it to a story saying you're a KGB asset since the 80s?
You say tie it to a story, but for how far we read...
That's literally the headline.
We read more than the headline.
Which we both know people don't read
That's
past.
fine if people
Most
have, but we're
people.
not people, okay? We're more informed. We can read past... No one in that article had said that he was a KGB asset, number one.
The point
and
is,
number two,
what is the
number
deliberate
two,
intention of this article trying to imply?
He even says in the article that he didn't say it was 100%, okay? And number two, oh fuck, what was I gonna say? Fuck, I don't even remember now.
I'm so confident. Doesn't matter. I'm winning this debate.
Oh, number two, yeah, I think it is fair to say that there is some leverage there. If you have like a fuck
Look
ton
at her
of money coming
laughing
from another
down
country.
there, bro.
We take this so seriously in the United States that in the U.S. you cannot be a president if you were born in another country, for instance. Like that's a huge part of like our having a U.S. president that was born in the United States of America is this threat or this fear or this worry that and I think even was it JFK? There was another president we had that was like Catholic and it was a really big deal because people were like
JFK Jr.
this motherfucker's Catholic. He's gonna be taking orders from the Pope. We're gonna have a foreign leader. So yeah, having a president that had like that has a lot of ties to foreign countries, that's a pretty unique thing in U.S. history, and that's something that we do worry about quite a bit. It's like built into our political system.
All right, you know what? We can just agree here then. I agree that we cannot be 100% certain that Hunter Biden was on the take from Burisma.
She's doing it again, dude.
Who knows? Maybe I'll publish a video with the headline that maybe perhaps he was later. And
But if you go through,
maybe perhaps Trump was on the take from the Russians.
But
Nobody
if you
knows.
do that, if you publish that headline and then you go through your video and you're like, there's not evidence of this, there is evidence of that, there were dealings here, there weren't dealings there, then that's fine. I'd be like, okay, sure, that's fine.
But maybe, guys, maybe.
If you come back and you're like, you know
Yeah,
what?
she's a really bad person, isn't she? She has to be a really bad person. I don't even know that much about her history, but the way she engages, like, she's definitely a really bad person. Maybe I shouldn't say. Maybe she's a good. No, dude. She seems really, really not good. I'm not a fan, bro. I'm not a fan. Maybe I don't know if she's genuine on her transition away from the cringe. Maybe later I can retract my statement. But come on, bro.
Yeah, that's like 10%, I'd say. Oh, you know what? If people would have said that Hillary Clinton was 10% responsible for Uranium One, I would have been way
Bad
more okay with
faith.
that than people saying like, Hillary Clinton, 100%.
I don't want to say bad I don't know. Judging by her past actions, maybe she changed.
Unilaterally let the Uranium One deal sell off
I know-
80%
I
of
know
U.S. nuclear
enough.
assets.
I
I
know
would have been way
enough,
more okay with it if somebody would release it like, oh, it's like a 10% chance. 100% sure.
Okay. I mean, like, I think it's a weird standard to hold misinformation to, right? Like, I think it's a bit weird to be like, okay, if BLM went out and say, you know, the United States run by white supremacists. If you're black, police just want to shoot you because you're black. 10% chance that's the reality. Election stolen, completely rigged, taken from Trump. He won by a landslide. 10% chance that's true. Like, to me, it's just a weird stance. I mean, I guess technically you're right. If you're going to spread information, it's better that you.
Oh my God. Even if Trump, like, that does leave room for actual, like, critical, I don't want to say critical analysis, that might mean something else, but, you know, critical thinking about media and actually critiquing media. If you say there is a small percent chance this is a fake election, if Trump went out there and said, oh, you know what, I think there is a 10% chance that this election was fake, that wouldn't carry nearly the same weight. Like, I think anybody who understands anything about, like, human interaction knows that. Saying this election was outright stolen will always hit harder than, yeah, I think there's a chance. Like, bro, what are you even talking about?
Say there's a 10% chance it's true than 100. I mean, I guess that's technically correct.
I think the problem is like the comparison of these two sources of misinformation. You can laugh, but the comparison of these two sources of misinformation is so unbelievably, I don't want to call it bad faith, but like BLM was a massive movement that had thousands of figures involved. Some of these people made very real and very true claims about the state of policing in the United States. And a lot of them, a good chunk of them, made absolutely ridiculous claims and wanted to make us a Marxist country. BLM was a huge movement with lots of people. Donald Trump, when it comes to his rhetoric about our elections in the United States, was almost 100% verifiably incorrect and was constantly cheerleading on horrible political thought and horrible attacks against all of our institutions while doing it from a completely non-factual basis that had no basis in this reality. To try to say that like these two things were comparable in terms of misinformation because BLM was a lot bigger, so maybe more people got some misinformation versus Trump, who was just wrong from the top down about almost all of this, I just don't think that's a very fair comparison.
Okay, I first want to make the point that if a story seems only 10% true or only has a 10% possibility of being true, it seems like basic journalistic integrity not to publish that story. That's the first point I make.
Lauren,
Okay,
that's what an op-ed is for. It's an opinion piece. It's an editorial. It's not a report. It's not being published in the New York Times. Like, here's our factual reporting on Trump. It's a literal op-ed by a guy that, like, I research a lot of this. I look at this, and he writes for the New York Mad, which I think is it the same as the New Yorker where they do like a bunch of huge profile pieces. This isn't like on the ground reporting. It's an op-ed. It's an opinion piece. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, but but he's obviously reporting it trying to report it as a potentially factual thing. That's like, he's not reporting it as this is my opinion.
Then why-
He's saying there's a 10% chance that this
No.
legally factual statement.
He's literally
could be
saying,
true.
I think. That's actually like his opinion. He's even saying it's his opinion by saying, I think. That's way different than like reporting you would read like on Fox News or like on a CNN article. Like, it's
Yeah, I think versus there is
completely
a
different.
10% chance.
And newspapers fact check op-eds, man. Like, they'll take them down if someone is saying, I think something that is provably false. Like, we know this, or they should.
Okay, I will.
I think
I'm
the
gonna
Jews
do-
are all cannibalistic Nazi pedophiles. Like,
I'll go
that
on.
would fly just
Listen,
because someone's saying.
we
I
can go
think-
on a boat, okay, and we can do all the immigrant stuff you want. Okay, I will come and be an alt-writer. If you can find me a single fucking New York Times or CNN or whatever, like reporting piece where you read a sentence like this, I loosely pegged it at 10 or 20%. That is not something that you read in a reporting mainstream media thing. That's an opinion piece. When somebody's writing like I loosely pegged it at 10 or 20%, that's an opinion. That's not something that's reported on a mainstream media site. You're never gonna read that in a Wall Street Journal or The Economist or Fox News or CNN. Even on Fox News, you're never gonna read a sentence like that.
All right, chat, get on the hunt for that. Destiny's going on a boat trip with
We're
Lauren.
gonna get the flare guns and everything, okay?
Okay.
I have to do D&D in like 5 minutes, so what are your final things you want to go on?
We've gone way off topic from January 6th, and I'm trying to even remember what I was going to say here.
Not really.
I mean, I guess we should pick up this conversation another day if you've only got 5 minutes, because everything I'm going to say is going to open a whole new Pandora's box of things to chat about.
Okay, gotcha. Well, hey, you can always message me anytime. We can start whenever you want to chat. I'm always free to do it, okay?
All right, enjoyed that. Have a good one. Enjoy D&D.
Yep, be careful.
Bye.
Damn. Is there any post reflection? No, don't go full screen.
Jesus. I feel like I lucked out because I still think the
Stop.
article she linked was like the most, like, it is obviously an opinion piece. The language seems like pretty reasonable. Like, if I was reading a whole bunch of pieces from like alternative media that were like, ivermectin may be a new drug. Like, you know, maybe now it's unlikely, there's no FDA approval, we haven't seen a lot of off-label usage, we're still looking at, like, if I was reading shit like that, then like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, I'm still not 100%, but okay, at least like, you know, I can blame the people reading it rather than the writers. But that's never how it's presented. It's so fucking 100% like, I feel like there's some parts of her argument where I feel like it's obvious that she doesn't want to give some because it would make other parts right, but I feel like there's some things that are like obviously correct. Like, are you saying that some misinformation is worse than others? Obviously. That is, I feel like I had like two really good examples. The gasoline thing, the water thing. Like, obviously, some misinformation is way worse than other misinformation. I think all misinformation is bad. I almost had a brain blast, or a bad brain blast. I thought it was fucked. When I saw that the article was MSN, I was like, wait a second. Is MSN like also MSNBC? Is that the same thing?
Oh, cool. Okay, debate review. Free content, thank you. All right, what's all this noise about this VAUSH video? I saw some drama happening on the Twitter. I want to see it. Do you know Hans of Hark here? Look at this bigger camera. Whoa. Where is it? Apparently somebody on Hans. This Sparky guy, he's on a bunch of panels. Look at Hans. Powerful. So this is after Hans's panel tonight. He asked me to be on it, but I was tired. I had stuff to do. Apparently this guy said something really racist. The bottom right guy, I didn't hear it yet. I just saw it on Twitter.
Found out from my chat.
But he's been on like Hippy Dippy and stuff as like the token right winger, or like because they need right wingers on Hippy Dippy because they can't find any of those people. By the way, I should be on that show. I don't know why you book Xander Hall every week. Like he can't debate and he brings no viewership to the stream anyway. So like why? But anyway.
Oh my goodness. So I just found out from my chat today that I was the subject of discussion with Joe Lewis. Ooh.
What happened
Joe
there?
Lewis is a black separatist. Waste of DNA.
Whoa.
Waste of DNA. Okay, well that's the one right there.
Waste of DNA.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He's not here
Wait,
to
he's
like
go.
defend himself. Can we?
I'll say it to his face. I won't say anything behind his back. I won't say to his face.
You're saying the person's a waste of DNA?
Yes.
Oh
my goodness. So I just found out from my chat today that I was the subject of discussion with Joe Lewis. Ooh.
What happened
Joe
there?
Lewis is a black separatist. Waste of DNA.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He's not here to like defend himself. Can we?
I'll say it to his face. I won't say anything behind his back. I won't say to his face.
You're saying the person's a waste of DNA?
Yes.
Oh
my goodness.
Should I record this as a mini segment thing? Maybe, I don't know.
So
okay, so this guy bottom right is on a lot of online debate panels. He is a right winger, and apparently he says something racist about Joe Lewis, who is a black content creator. Is he a leftist or whatever? He's definitely on the left. He's definitely like a liberal at least. He's very into academics and all that stuff. He's a good speaker. Let me see. Oh, thank you, Nighthawk, for the $5. Thank you so much. Thank you for hanging out. Have a good night. So what did he say here again?
Found out from my chat today that I was the subject of discussion with Joe Lewis. Ooh.
What happened
Joe
there?
Lewis is a black separatist. Waste of DNA.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He's not here to like defend himself. Can we?
So of course the waste of DNA line, the black separatist line. I don't think Joe Lewis is a black separatist. I'm actually pretty confident that he is not a black separatist. But the waste of DNA line is definitely the really problematic thing that he says there. Should he be banned from a bunch of panel shows? Joe Lewis down here, I do not want an apology. There is no apologizing. He said what he said. He meant what he said. He would do it again if he knew the space was in support. Hans, who hosted the panel, said, I did not know this happened when I stepped away during the break. I'm sorry, Joe. Gonna have words with Sparky, and this won't happen again. Hans is gonna ban Sparky. Sparky is this guy from his panels. Should he be banned from a bunch of panels? I don't think he should be banned from a bunch of panels. I mean, I mean, the arguments he makes are pretty bad. He's not really good at debating. He kind of makes the right look stupid. So having those ideas out there being debated by skilled debaters, I mean, that's why you don't bring Xander Hall on your panel. So you actually have good debaters on there. But, you know, his arguments being shot down, I think would be decent. I know a lot of people in real life that say much worse stuff than him, but I'm still going to engage with them. And there is no platforming risk, in my opinion, at all. If anything, you know, if anything is going to teach people how to engage with these kind of ideas. He said waste of DNA. I don't know what people usually hear in their day-to-day lives about this stuff. But the stuff that I have to shut down is much worse than this, than waste of DNA. Much worse. Very far, much worse than what he said. I don't think he should be banned. I don't know. I think it's a little bit weird to look at this in like a online panel sense. Ban him from the panels, and I don't know, dude. I just don't see the point in the cancellation. I don't think it really is going to be effective here in any way. I don't really see any benefit of it. I don't like this guy. He's pretty cringe on the panels that I see. I just don't see any I just don't see any societal benefit or whatever to kicking him off. Joe Lewis called out the Scrub King and questioned his blackness and said, "You are closer to whiteness than MLK." I have not seen that. I do not know anything about that, so I'm not going to comment on it. CTV, better than Lorem. I hope this is enough evidence as to why you should never platform Aircraft Sparky ever again. These people are racist. I've told you multiple times. They are crypto. They mask it so that they stay in your good graces. Stop being fooled by these people. I just don't like looking at all of the dummies who believe really crappy political opinions as these people in this group of untouchables that we need to cast aside and never engage with. If not only for debate purposes, but also with getting them to our side and getting them to accept better beliefs and getting other people who are going to be coming up in the younger generation to not fall into these beliefs. I think the cancellation is pretty ineffective. Saying they're crypto Nazi, like I just don't. Is he behind the scenes talking about white people being replaced? Maybe watching Tucker Carlson. Like it or not, Tucker Carlson is one of the biggest media figures, and he talks about the white replacement theory, the literal white replacement theory on one of the most popular Fox News broadcasting, television channels. I wouldn't say engage everybody. I disagree with that. I think some people need to be not platformed. But in this scenario, I think it's just kind of dumb. We see much worse on Fox News. If we can't combat, if we cannot handle what this guy said in this clip on these platforms, debating them, I don't know why you're doing online debate panels. Why are you doing online debates? This is 1/100th of what we see on Fox News every second. This is less racist than some stuff I see on like MSNBC. Like, I like Joe. It just, I don't know. Just doesn't seem like it works. Yeah, I don't like the use of these people to describe any group. But the DNA thing, of course, with Joe Lewis being black was the big thing right there. Destiny gets accused of being racist for calling people subhuman. He calls everybody subhuman, but when he calls... Did I cover the Destiny Mike from PA semi-nuke? No, maybe I will. Okay, so my overall take on this, don't cancel him. It doesn't make any sense. Keep debating people. Get off debate panels online if you can't handle this much lightness. I don't know. It's not like... I wish I can talk about the stuff I hear on the daily. But we see it on Fox News, much worse than this. But like the stuff I hear from actual people who are like liberals in real life, like they say some bad stuff, bro. Really insensitive stuff. And not engaging with this person makes zero sense to me. I don't know. Making it a big issue. Now making it see more eyeballs. I don't know. Maybe I spent too much time IRL talking to people and I'm just like thinking about this in a more pragmatic world sense more than an online platforming sense. I don't know. But this right here, why do people think Hans is a good guy? He's a fascist who has no problem platforming over, he spelled it wrong, overt fascists. Also, I literally asked him once, don't you care about other countries being exploited? And he replied, I want my health care, though. This person should not be taken seriously, bro. This entire thing is so bad. Hans, you're a good guy. You're going to be affected by this because you are a good guy. People are going to criticize you. You've taken actions to ban Sparky from your community, but honestly, I don't think that's the right move. I know you're trying to make everybody happy because Hans really is a good guy. If you've ever seen his show, if you've ever been on or you know, if you've ever seen his panels, if you've ever been on or like watched his stream before, he's a good guy. So people getting mad at him for what Sparky said here is going to be par for the course. But like I said, the cast, it makes no sense. This is a online Twitter politics thing. The DNA thing was really bad. Have him talk about it. Have him answer for it. Debate his dumb opinions. Like I said, he sounds like an idiot. He makes dumb points. If we can't debate him on these platforms, don't have online debate panels anymore because you're not cut out for it. There is no function of online debate panels. If having him on online debate panel is a negative thing, is really dangerous, then all online debate panels are dangerous, in my opinion. If you're going to have counterpoints versus Pisco for every debate panel, what's the point? What are you even doing? Like, just have your little sessions where you don't have any, you know, actual disagreements and just like sort of disagree on everything and have really boring content that doesn't even teach anybody how to engage with any ideas. Like these are online debate panels about politics. This barely reflects, like I said, the racism of some people in this country, like that are liberal. Let alone Tucker Carlson, who literally talks about white genocide and white replacement theories and all the culture war topics and about how Black Lives Matter is the real racist organization and about all this stuff and about, you know, immigrants having a low IQ and stuff like that. That's Tucker Carlson. That's on mainstream media. That's Fox News. If we can't rebut this guy, bro, then, you know, hang up the towel, bro. Hang it up. Hans, he's banned from my server, blocked on Twitter, Discord, and I'm never having him on another panel. What he did tonight while I was away from the panel was disgusting, and I will not tolerate it. It is disgusting. I'm just saying. There's... I don't know. Maybe... Okay. Moving on. People are going to say, oh, I don't care about racism, whatever. It's... All right, VAUSH is evil. Somebody get me the video. Where is it? Where is the evil VAUSH video? Does anybody have it? What's that video called? I'm off the grid. This for my kid. Shout out to Kanye, Donda, you know. Donda. Donda. What's the video called? Help me, please. I'm going to die. Is it on Twitter? Can I find out on Twitter? Please help me. Did somebody tag me in it? I feel like somebody tagged me in it. Here you go. Okay. Done.
Send me an email.
Oh, this is an hour and a half. I don't know if I have time for this BS. Oh, no. Hey, I probably won't be streaming for another... another, like, month. This might be my last stream for a month. Might as well go all for it, baby. How long have I been going so far? 2.5 hours? If you want to support the channel, you can become a member for 99 cents a month. Help me buy some coffee for my internship starting on Wednesday. Okay. Thank you all for hanging out at 3:30 a.m. Eastern time. Donda. Okay. Yeah, bye viewers. Bye. Go below 50. I dare you. They playing soccer in my backyard. I think I see Messi. I'm talking to God. That's my bestie. I'm only streaming because it's the holiday weekend. Yeah, I'm going home for a couple days tomorrow. But my internship is starting, so I'm not gonna have any time. I might try to stream if I turn into a superhuman, but I gotta get these grades down, you know? And all that stuff. Okay, so VAUSH is unironically evil. This is the new hot topic right now from this tiny channel. It's a documentary about like VAUSH being evil, I guess, or whatever. It's getting a lot of noise. Apparently some people commented on it. A lot of different channels like Count Dankula commented on it. I saw Short Fat Otaku. By the way, my least favorite genre of YouTube video okay, well, let me restart. I have to drink some water real quick. BRB. Okay. Ow. My ankle hurts. I twisted it today. Okay, VAUSH is unironically evil. This video is blowing up from this tiny channel about VAUSH being evil. It has some interesting comments on it from Count Dankula and a couple other channels like Short Fat Otaku. I was saying a little bit ago, my least favorite genre of like YouTube video is the gaming, like the gameplay commentary channels where there's gameplay and then like an edgy anti-SJW talking about news stories. I hate those channels so much. Oh my God, bro. They don't ever show their faces. I hate those channels. Oh my God. They always have the worst opinions. I want to debate them.
Send me an email at vaushvideo.com with your perspective on the issue with the intent of being critical. Because I don't learn from praise. I guess I learn a little from praise, but I learn more from not praise, okay?
If you randomly stumbled into this video without a background in online politics, VAUSH is one of the biggest online political figures at the moment. He advocates for anti-capitalist, left-wing political positions, and currently holds a great degree of influence in online political discourse. In this video, I am making the argument that VAUSH is a genuinely evil person. And I understand that may sound like clickbait, but if you stick with me, I intend to fully defend the position. Timestamps are in the description if you would like to jump to a specific section, although the later sections do rely on claims made in earlier sections. In the description, you can find a link to the script, which has copious citations for every clip used and every claim made. Obviously, you don't need to read it, but do know I come bearing copious receipts.
Winning a debate and winning the audience are not necessarily always the same things. Whether or not they overlap depends pretty much exclusively with how good faith the conversation is held in. In a very bad faith conversation, there can often be a really severe disconnect between the technical procession of arguments throughout the course of the events of the debate and who's believed to have won at the end.
When you're having a conversation, whether you're trying to find the truth, persuade someone, or persuade an audience, you'll be exchanging ideas, and in order for that to proceed smoothly, you'll need something called good faith. Good faith implies a number of things: sincerity, honesty, openness.
VAUSH is completely correct when it comes to like the victor in conversations and like politics and all that stuff. It matters who is seen as correct. You need to have good principles and a foundation in fact, of course. You want to have that foundation. But if you can't argue your positions, you are essentially worthless in the realm of rhetoric and debate and when it comes to optics. Kevin, thank you so much for becoming a member. Support to your member. Thank you so much. Guys, 99 cents a month. I'm grifting. I need the grift, you know? Thank you so much.
And charity. This basically means you'll be playing by the rules. You aren't trying to win the conversation through duplicitous means, and the outcome of the conversation is reflective of the quality of ideas exchanged. One of these ideas merits special attention: charity. Being charitable is attempting to interpret your opponent's statements in the best manner possible, and you may have heard this referred to as steel manning. This is the opposite of straw manning, a duplicitous tactic where you purposefully attack a weaker version of your opponent's argument than what they actually presented. Most of VAUSH's debates are blood sports with enemies, and it's honestly incredible how bad faith and uncharitable some of these conversations can be. While it may be obvious to the casual observer that something is wrong, to fully understand how bad they really are, you would need to watch the conversation several times while taking notes. A good example is debating white supremacy with Count Dankula. This debate happened because VAUSH accused Dankula of being a white supremacist, Dankula disagreed, so VAUSH challenged him to a debate. Already, this is insanely bad faith. VAUSH is refusing to take him at his word, and his only evidence in this debate is a couple of edgy tweets and jokes, knowing full well that Dankula is an edgy comedian. Telling edgy jokes is literally his job, and VAUSH of all people should understand this because VAUSH is also an edgy comedian.
I think in regard.
When I listen to this, I will say points, that I agree with and disagree with. So VAUSH does care more about rhetoric, and I think he does get too hyperbolic in what he calls people, what he labels people as. The current example that he brings up all the time is the average Republican voter would have supported Hitler. Now, if you wanted to do an extremely historical analysis of what political parties historically went to authoritarianism and dictatorships, you can do that. But then you can say VAUSH, if he was in the Soviet Union, he would have supported Joseph Stalin. You can make the exact same claim with the same legitimacy, because that same ideological following who believed in Hitler from the right may have believed in Stalin from the left. You can make a lot of different arguments, and that rhetorically doesn't even work, because even if you want to say current day illiberal, anti-democracy Republican politicians are anti, freedom and stuff. Even if you want to make that claim, how bad of a point it is to say oh, you would have supported slavery. You would have been Hitler back in the day. It serves no utility to say anything like that. But VAUSH does commonly say oh, you're a white supremacist, you're a fascist. He called George Bush a fascist in that one debate. I think he does that too much.
I think when it comes to comedy, you can joke about absolutely anything and everything.
I just want to say, I've joked. Oh, sorry, please. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I joke about different groups of people all the time on my stream. I've joked about transgender people. I've joked about black people. I've joked about Jews. Oh boy, have I done all of those things. I think that we should be able to make jokes about anything, literally anything. I would defend that to my dying breath. And I hate that there are some lefties who are legitimately humorless fucking bad words.
For almost everything Dankula says, there are two available explanations. The good faith explanation is that this is an edgy comedian telling edgy jokes, while the bad faith explanation is that these are proof of racism. So, arguing that Dankula is a white supremacist because he told edgy jokes is, in the strictest literal sense, VAUSH being bad faith and attempting to burn a straw man. Good faith isn't even possible here, but it's made all the more amusing by something we'll learn later in the debate. Dankula is not a white supremacist. This is the worst I've ever seen VAUSH lose a debate, and to the best of my knowledge, Dankula doesn't even do debates. This never needed to happen, and it's a great example of how rhetoric can't save you if you are hilariously and totally wrong. The debate begins with the moderator asking both parties to define white supremacy.
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense historically, Kevin, but like I said, you can argue that left-leaning people would have been for a socialist dictator in certain eras, or maybe they would have served certain lords or whatever. They would have been one of the good ones for the king, or they would have served whatever the authoritarian leader was of that time. You can run this back all of the time. Hey VAUSH, guess what? 400 years ago, if you were there, guess what? You probably would have not supported gay rights. Yeah, everybody didn't. You can make the argument for example, the people that supported slavery after slavery was abolished, they then supported, Jim Crow. After Jim Crow laws got stripped down a little bit, then those same people who supported slavery and then supported Jim Crow now supported massive segregation. And then once the civil rights movement went through and we had the Civil Rights Act, the same people who supported segregation now became pro-war on drugs. And then once we paid attention to the war on drugs, the same people who were pro-slavery, pro-segregation, pro-Jim Crow, who were pro-war on drugs, are now anti-BLM. You can draw that conclusion. You can say that a certain ideological leaning was always on a certain side of an issue, but I just don't think it serves any utility to say that, because even if it may be true, it just doesn't make sense to really bring up, because it doesn't help us get anywhere or achieve progress. If you tie somebody back who is anti-BLM today to, you would have supported slavery. I just think that is kind of self-defeating for your own cause at that point.
Just to clarify the term first.
Sure, yeah. So generally speaking, when I say white supremacist, I'm referring to a person who believes that there is A, some sort of fundamental distinction between the races, and B, one who believes that either the white race is superior in some empirical sense, or B, that we need to engage in policies or other social actions to prioritize that group of people.
person that feels that white people are superior to all other races and all other races are, are or should be subservient to whites and things should be done only for the benefit of whites.
When they give their responses, they agree almost entirely, and they both basically give the Google definition. Both of these definitions are functional, so now that we agree on definitions, we can proceed in good faith, right?
VAUSH, do you have any issues with that definition?
Yeah, that's not the actual definition at all. That's a highly unacademic definition of white supremacy. What that does...
But I see Rue. If you do believe, and I don't know much about Count Dankula, but if you do believe that he is racist or whatever, do you see why VAUSH's approach here is so self-defeating? Do you see why coming out and calling him the hyperbolic label right away hurt his ability to expose Count Dankula? If you do believe Count Dankula is racist, it gave Count Dankula the upper hand here. And for somebody that, and I know he might be better now, I don't know, because the example I gave about the Hitler thing, about Republicans supporting Hitler is from like, he says that still today. But for somebody who considers themselves like a master of rhetoric and persuasion, it's a really bad tactic to get people on your side when he does that.
It sets the bar so high that there's no way to ever prove that anyone is a white supremacist because they would have to buy into a fuck ton of positions before they would actually fit that qualification.
But he still does that. Like, he does admit it, but this tendency to keep on repeating the same thing over and over again, I think really hurts VAUSH's ability, because he is a good speaker. He is good at what he does. He is a good rhetorician, but he sort of holds himself back with these bad habits.
Do you see where this is going? After giving almost identical definitions that match the Google definition, VAUSH denigrates Dankula's definition as being highly unacademic, and tries to shift to a definition so vague it could reasonably apply to anyone. What VAUSH is doing here is attacking anything and everything Dankula says, even if VAUSH said the exact same thing a minute earlier. So less than 2 minutes in, and this is already a shit show. Here are some examples of bad faith engagement just from the first 6 minutes of this conversation.
Yeah, cool. Well, hey, listen, believe it or not, I don't like the fact that there are white supremacists in the world. I doubt you do either.
Now think about this for a second. Wouldn't a white supremacist want more white supremacists in the world? This is an admission that Dankula is not a white supremacist, but VAUSH continues to argue that Dankula is a white supremacist.
But VAUSH's overall point is that Count Dankula's jokes serve the overall narrative of what white supremacy talks about. So the edgy jokes he constantly makes over and over and over again. Just like if you make jokes over and over and over again about only trans people, if you only make fun of trans people over and over and over again, then people get the general idea that you're anti-trans. So if you only make like jokes about that might be funny to a white supremacist over and over again, people may think, oh, you're serving that cause. So that's VAUSH's overall claim here. So this clip, whatever, that this guy is getting out of this doesn't seem to be very indicative of what VAUSH actually was going for here.
For the next 2 hours anyway.
So instead, what I think would be more interesting is if I proceed under the assumption of good faith.
This is a VAUSH classic. A false claim of good faith while being incredibly
he shoots himself in the foot. I'm like, why are you doing this? You're hurting your own cause. That's what I said about Destiny being too hyperbolic before. Although Destiny, unironically, is going really good now. Rhetorically speaking, Destiny has taken a turn for the better. Ever since he started, Destiny started working out, he's just getting quicker on his feet, more mature.
We'll be seeing this over and over again. Take note when VAUSH claims to be doing a good thing, because he's probably about to do the opposite.
Yeah, I have to inductively reason it, but I think for the purposes of the discussion, it's better to walk through my thought process as I come to discover your content and the way that you talk and engage with stuff, rather than presumptively making the accusation and then, like, post-hoc going over all the assumed evidence.
Did you catch that? Presumptively making the accusation and then post-hoc going over all the assumed evidence is exactly what VAUSH did, and is currently doing. That's why this conversation happened, and this is what VAUSH typically does when he accuses people of being fascist or Nazi.
I don't like that, how this doomer politics guy is clipping all of the stuff he wants people to see, and now he is convincing people of the narrative that he wants to convince people of. So nobody's going to actually look at the actual Count Dankula debate. It doesn't actually represent what they were talking about. I don't like that.
Jeez.
Pretty slimy.
You're going to say the term, it's just a joke, do you know what a joke is, mate, or I'm a fucking comedian, about 80 times over the course of this discussion. We're not going to have any way of actually reasoning out anyone's positions, and it will end up being a complete waste of time. So we're going to see how that goes.
Are we going head first in and saying that it's just a joke, I'm a comedian, are completely invalid arguments the whole time?
No, I just want to see how many times you say them. They're totally valid arguments, and I have made them in the past.
Okay then, so basically you're probably going to ask me a lot about jokes that I've made, And the actual arguments that explain these jokes, you're trying to preemptively discredit those arguments by going, oh, if I tell him this, he's probably going to say this, when what I'm going to say is a valid argument.
The fact that you are preemptively defending the it's just a joke defense is very telling to the kind of conversation that we're about to have.
This exchange is unbelievable. VAUSH poisons the well by saying Dankula will try and use the it's just a joke defense.
He does come off as, if I just found VAUSH off of this debate, I'd probably think he's kind of unlikable, because he is poisoning the well. Dankula's coming in like, bro, I'm just joking. And then VAUSH is like, I know that this conversation is going to be terrible because you're going to hide behind this label and you're a white supremacist and all your comedy is really bad. Like, VAUSH does seem like a cringy, unlikable. You know, he seems like how Tom McDonald fans view my reactions of Tom McDonald. He comes off not good here. and he's shooting himself in the foot like we've been saying.
Then concedes that this defense is valid. Then he poisons the well again and attacks Dankula further for using a defense that he conceded is valid less than 20 seconds earlier. Also, let this be made as clear as possible. VAUSH has allowed the it's just a joke defense, which means winning the debate is now impossible, as VAUSH has no arguments outside of what could be reasonably explained as an edgy comedian making edgy jokes. It's also worth pointing out that when VAUSH says the conversation will be a complete waste of time, he's trying to discredit a debate that he very likely knows he cannot win. Unreal. Absolutely unreal. And this is all in the first 6 minutes of the conversation, by the way. This much bullshit was crammed into 6 minutes. Later in the conversation, VAUSH concedes that Dankula's YouTube videos didn't seem that bad. VAUSH says that Dankula's not an anti-Semite. VAUSH says that Dankula isn't malicious or nefarious. Dankula and VAUSH agree on immigration. We learn that Dankula's anti-colonialism. They agree on censorship, Antifa, and tankies. And Dankula expresses without prompting that people have a responsibility to keep racists out of their communities. Let's see how this debate ends.
I've no idea why these people hate trans people so much. I mean, they suck the best dick. I'm telling you, man.
Thank you for turning a sincere advocacy into a joke.
It's true, though. It's true. My audience is great with you, though.
Like no other. Like, honestly, women treat your dick like it's a chore. Transsexual women treat your dick.
This is a big issue with the left in general, coming off as like not chill, not like you want to hang out with them. And I think VAUSH is decent at that now. But Dankula really is just coming in here so smooth, you know? Even, you know, if they do agree on all these positions, VAUSH coming in right off the bat, shot out of a cannon, as David Pakman would say, hurt his ability to actually have a good discussion here, because he could have said, hey, the comedy's kind of damaging. If you do believe in this stuff, it may come off as damaging white supremacy or whatever, or as helping white supremacy or being on that side.
Like it's their god.
And let's just take a look at VAUSH's chat. Yeah, that's about as well as this can go. VAUSH actually concedes, although he does so in a very roundabout way so as to save face. But there isn't any mistake. This was an extremely bad faith conversation from VAUSH, and he can't even...
Do I feel like he's a white supremacist in the way that I made an accusation on stream? No, VAUSH should have not done that. Do I think it's possible there are subliminal biases that are influencing his decision-making? Yeah, cringy gamer bro, anti-SJW joking. Yes. See, this is bad. I never want to completely absolve a person from engaging in racial bias, because I think that's something we all do to an extent. So if we all do it to an extent, you shouldn't be calling individual people out for something you think everybody's in. Like, I don't... If we're all, like, breathing oxygen, at that point we have to just, like, note the facts of what everybody's influenced by, and we have to talk and determine the levels at which different people are influenced by these factors. You are a much more reasonable person than I initially expected you to be. I do at least try to engage with the things that people actually believe in, and I think it makes me look bad when I just outright disregard the capacity for a positive conversation. So VAUSH does know it makes him look bad. VAUSH knows it makes him look bad when he disregards the capacity for positive conversation. So he knows this is a problem. He just has a lot more to fix, and I don't think anybody tells him that. He doesn't really have any rebuttals that are serious from people that come on stream with him about his like rhetorical tactics.
Plainly admit that he's wrong without making a bunch of statements to optically hedge his defeat. Did he learn a lesson about falsely accusing people of being white supremacists? Did he grow as a person? What was he concerned with at the end of the conversation? Let's see.
Hey, man.
Oh. Oh God. All right. That was the most difficult fucking optical juggle I've ever done in my life.
This is almost certainly an admission that 1, VAUSH is almost entirely concerned with optics, not the truth, and 2, he knows he was acting in bad faith. This is further cemented
He is concerned about optics. That's all that matters when it comes to penetrating people's minds. How you look is what matters, but I don't like how much VAUSH hyper-focuses on optics. It is very true that when you debate somebody, when you're a politician, optics are almost all that matters. But if you hyper-focus on it in a robotic way, if you are like a robot, I need to look good with this rhetorical strategy. How should I respond to this person? Count Dankula, are you a racist? Ha ha, you are much more reasonable than I thought. Ha ha, we agree on so much. Like when you do that in such a calculated way, I just feel like it comes off as so bad. It's a bad way to do things. It doesn't work as well. You should care about optics, but you need to care about your principles and your basis for the conversation initially. And I think that's why overall I'd have to put Big D over VAUSH when it comes to that, because he does base more in what he is grounded in and the information he's grounded in, and the points he's trying to make. He does care more about that principle than VAUSH does. And VAUSH needs to work on that. Only focusing on optics, it doesn't work. Even if you know optics are the only thing that matters, even if you want to be a cold-blooded politician answering questions from the media 24/7, I just don't think it works. Unless if you have underlying facts that you do believe in. I don't know though, because politicians, do you really think like Pelosi or Biden or Obama really meant what they said? If you are a speaker like Obama, do you think he was authentic with 90% of what he said? Maybe like 20% of what he said, but he was such a good speaker, he could get out of any situation that he wanted to. So it makes you question, how this functions in the real world. It's really complicated because, if you have a bunch of lying politicians who just compete for optics, then you do get a really rough political process that doesn't function as well. Democracy falls apart and all that stuff. But at the same time, you need to kind of hope that the good people in a system, that the good faith actors that care about facts and helping people are also the ones that are good rhetorically. Because if the good people are not good at rhetoric and are not good at looking good, and if the good people can't win elections, then everything goes downhill because all the bad people who can lie all the time and be deceiving can take control of the system. So you need a balance of optics and principle. You need as good of a balance as you can get. So that's why this becomes so difficult. You can't be too robotic as VAUSH is with optics, but you also can't be too principle focused. Like, what's a good example of somebody who talks like an idiot? Kyle Kalinske. He just talks so dumb, and he's not right about a lot of stuff. But like, you have to be in between there. You have to, like, oh my God, reality and the reality TV show need to come together in the perfect mix for it to work.
By the thumbnail. You'd think after admitting that Dankula isn't a white supremacist, he would be happy to absolve him, right? No. There's no ambiguity here. This is just horrendous. And as bad as this conversation was, the prime case fascism shit show was much worse. I was going to cover some other conversations to drive the point home, but I have an even better idea. What if VAUSH plainly admitted to behaving in bad faith? Hunter Avalon was a conservative YouTuber who switched to being a centrist sockdem over the course of 2020.
Is my stream lagging?
Partially due to conversations with VAUSH, and has become one of VAUSH's closer friends in the YouTube space. Let's hear VAUSH's recollection of these events.
Yeah, reminder, by the way, the only reason that I ever tried to talk to Hunter Avalon the way that I did was because I talked to Shoeonhead beforehand. I thought that Hunter Avalon was just another, like, dumb fuck, no principles conservative. Shoeonhead messaged me and said, like, hey, I've, like, met Hunter Avalon before. I think that he's, like, an authentic guy. Like, I think he actually cares about the stuff that he believes in. And that's the only reason everything following with me and Hunter Avalon happened.
VAUSH is just straight up admitting that he would have treated Hunter the way he treats every other conservative, admitting that he does not treat them in good faith. Now, ask yourself, given that VAUSH treated Hunter in good faith, and given that VAUSH helped Hunter change his political views, what good could have been done if VAUSH just treated conservatives like people?
Oh my God, that's a good point. That is correct. That is 100% on the dot. That is definitely something I would say VAUSH needs to change 100%. And everybody who is on my political side needs to get better at it. That is a completely valid, 100% true criticism.
My goal when watching this is going to be pointing out any bad arguments or any instances where I feel these people are acting in bad faith. That is
By the way, the title's dumb. The title is so dumb. Unironically evil. Yeah, that's pretty cringe.
One of the benefits of the type of content that I do is that you never have to worry about me taking stuff out of context.
When VAUSH watches a video and pauses it constantly, it can be incredibly misleading. You may get the impression that you've absorbed the content because you technically watched it, but if you were to go back and watch the video VAUSH covered on its own, you'd likely feel you were experiencing it for the first time. We're going to be looking at one of VAUSH's videos that responds to a podcast by Sam Harris. VAUSH only watches 6 minutes of Sam Harris's 113-minute podcast, or roughly 5% of the content, so 95% of the context is missing. Keep this in the back of your mind, because nearly all of VAUSH's claims about Harris can be refuted with context from the other 107 minutes. It's also worth pointing out that VAUSH is responsible for what he does with his platform. VAUSH could have either listened to the whole podcast beforehand to address things with context, or gone over the whole thing, or not covered it at all. If it is the case that VAUSH cherry-picked a small segment and misrepresented Harris's arguments, there's no excuse for that. VAUSH chose to cover it on stream, and VAUSH chose to post the video, so any misrepresentations are VAUSH's responsibility. There's one thing to clear up before we get into the content: the distinction between interpersonal and systemic racism.
Well, sure, but systemic racism doesn't even need racist people at the helm. Systemic racism perpetuates itself through, like, systemic inequality. If you have a society where absolutely nobody is racially biased, but black people start off with less, the way economics works ensures that they'll continue to have less, at least for a very long time.
This is a topic VAUSH discusses frequently, so he should not be confused by the distinction. On screen now are various quotes from the podcast VAUSH is responding to that demonstrate irrefutably that Harris acknowledges the existence of systemic racism. One in particular should drive the point home.
As I've already acknowledged, there is a legacy of racism in the United States that we are still struggling to outgrow. That is obvious. There are real racists out there. And there are ways in which racism became institutionalized a long time ago. Many of you will remember that during the crack epidemic, the penalties for crack and powder cocaine were quite different. And this led black drug offenders to be locked up for much longer than white ones. Now, whether the motivation for that...
I don't like Sam Harris's delivery because it's the perfect voice for like a pseudo-intellectual, the way he speaks. I just don't like it. It's scary. It scares me, bro. Super scary. But yeah, if people are even, it's a general fact about the world that approaching people in a good faith, positive way is always going to be better than treating them in a negative way. No matter how bad a person is or how much, unless if they're like literally like super evil, maybe being negative against them would be good. But your approach to begin everything should be in good faith. It needs to be in a positive manner because you need to be liked by people. You need to be on a good, in a good realm with people to connect with them and to get people on your side and to work with people. It's always good to be positive. Always be as positive as you possibly can in life in general. Negative people don't get places. Negative people only get places when they become podcasters or like streamers. But you got to be positive. You got to be a builder. You got to be able to communicate with people. You can't make judgments on people right off the bat. You can't call this person racist, this person a white supremacist, that person evil, because everybody is very complicated in this crazy world with crazy humans. So it usually isn't good. I think that's one quality I don't like that VAUSH passes on to people, that anger about everybody and Destiny and all the streamers. All of them do this pretty much.
That policy was consciously racist or not.
And I do it too.
But it was effectively racist.
And how about another?
How much of this inequality is due to the legacy of slavery? And how much of it is due to the ensuing century of racist policies? I'm prepared to think quite a lot. And it strikes me as totally legitimate to think about paying reparations as a possible remedy here. Of course, one will then need to talk about reparations for the Native Americans.
Harris absolutely affirms the existence of systemic racism. What Harris questions in the podcast is the degree to which interpersonal racism plays a part in police use of force. This is crucially important because, as we can see from the video title, VAUSH's main argument against Harris is that he denies the existence of systemic racism, which is demonstrably untrue.
Oh,
Let's see
crap. VAUSH was incorrect about this. Oh my god. He didn't... Yeah, this is another valid criticism. Sam Harris literally wasn't criticizing systemic racism as much as he was criticizing interpersonal interactions with the police and how race influences those, like traffic stops and everything. So VAUSH should have responded to those arguments. He responded to the wrong arguments and strawmanned Harris. And that does give people like Harris more power. Yeah, Marty Moose, you are correct. He did do Sam Harris 30 here. Spencer, thank you so much for another super chat. Yeah, VAUSH is being lazy here. But Spencer, good point. VAUSH recently got upset about React Andy videos taking 2 minutes out of an hour conversation to dunk on 3% off the content. Yeah, that happens often. I can see being upset about that.
This video begins.
I'm going to make an effort to be as charitable as possible to the arguments that I hear.
Remember what happens when VAUSH claims to be doing a good thing. So how does VAUSH present Harris's argument? We're going to quickly cover every single thing Harris says and every single time VAUSH pauses. I will summarize these to move through quickly, but feel free to pause or check the script for sources if you're interested. VAUSH begins by agreeing with Harris's claim and then vaguely gesturing at systemic racism, implying that Harris would disagree. But as we've already demonstrated, Harris enthusiastically affirms the existence of systemic racism. Get used to this pattern of VAUSH agreeing with Harris's claim and then vaguely gesturing at Harris denying systemic racism, because that's almost the entire video. Then VAUSH implies Harris believes in scientific racism and implies that Harris would deny the existence of systemic racism. Harris doesn't. Then VAUSH responds to Harris misquoting statistics, and VAUSH would be correct, but he has to throw in misinformation at the end. This should be the easiest win for VAUSH in the world, but he has to insist that these numbers only apply to arrests and not incarcerations. This would imply that the state is less likely to imprison black people for violent crimes, when VAUSH repeatedly argues the opposite, and the data shows the opposite. This is an example of a frequent trend. Even when VAUSH says things that are true, he often exaggerates them to the point of falsehood.
VAUSH is looking good, though. He lost a lot of weight.
Then VAUSH implies that Harris is attempting to justify racist policies, which he clearly isn't. Again, Harris proposed paying reparations in this podcast. Then Harris makes the most controversial statement of the podcast, and VAUSH just agrees with it. Also, can someone please explain to me what low-level murder is? Honestly, I want an explanation. What is low-level murder? Then VAUSH pauses to agree with Harris again, while trying to put words in Harris's mouth. Then VAUSH implies once again that Harris denies the existence of systemic racism.
What did he say? Low-level murder?
Agree with Harris again. Honestly, I want an explanation. What is low-level?
Pretty sure it's not just 13%, given that I'm pretty sure most black people didn't get 13 either. Low-level
murder. Then VAUSH pauses to agree with Harris again, while trying to put words in Harris's mouth. Then VAUSH implies once again that Harris denies the existence of systemic racism, and yada yada yada, you get the picture. Then VAUSH says that Harris is strawmanning Black Lives Matter into only being about police reform, which Harris never said, and in fact Harris specifically called out systemic injustice in our legal system beyond simply the police. It's also worth pointing out that Harris explicitly made an argument for defunding the police in this podcast. And then VAUSH does this.
So let's give him a chance to respond.
Oh god, I don't know. Wouldn't low level be like third degree or manslaughter? If you had a definition for low level, or would a low level murder be in a conflict? You can argue that murder over an actual conflict is like an ongoing conflict. Like if you get into, like I said earlier, if you get into a bar fight or like a wide scale fight and somebody dies, that's different from if it's like a cold blooded murder, like you hunt somebody down. Like doing something in the moment is going to be looked at different legally. I don't know what he means by that. Does anybody know what Sam Harris meant by low-level murder? Or what VAUSH said?
I don't even know what to say to this. VAUSH has been ranting for 6 minutes at this point, and 20 minutes into his video, he's only played roughly 2 minutes of Harris talking. Harris doesn't get a chance to respond, my dude. Then VAUSH accuses Harris of misdirection while misdirecting. Harris is not a conservative. He takes every available opportunity to trash Trump, and while some people may point out that VAUSH is only implying Harris is a conservative here, VAUSH will go on to directly state that later, so the intention to communicate this idea is quite clear. Then VAUSH accuses Harris of supporting militarized policing, when Harris explicitly condemned this in this podcast. Then VAUSH just agrees with Harris on police brutality. Then VAUSH starts to get incredibly bad faith. Remember how VAUSH has been grilling Harris for denying systemic racism for this entire video? What Harris is laying out here is an explicit case for systemic racism. Does VAUSH realize his mistake and give Harris credit? No, VAUSH interrupts Harris to insult him, so his audience will forget what Harris is saying.
25% more likely to use pepper spray or a baton.
I will give Sam Harris credit for one thing, if nothing else. He has the perfect cadence and vocal tone for a pseudo-intellectual.
Oh my god, I said that. No, I literally said that word for word a little bit ago. I literally said that. What the hell, dude? But yeah, Sam Harris literally did list things that were true about systemic racism, and VAUSH just ignored it.
Point, you may have been able to make a case that VAUSH was just irresponsible, but this isn't just irresponsible. This is malicious. And now VAUSH is strawmanning Harris. Harris is quoting several studies, including the Johnson study, which has a conclusion that controls for proximity. Again, this is where the interpersonal racism and systemic racism distinction becomes important. Harris is arguing against the idea that interpersonal racism among police is responsible for these issues, and arguing instead that systemic racism is what we should be focusing on. VAUSH agrees with this argument elsewhere, he's simply refusing to acknowledge that this is what Harris is actually saying. Then VAUSH proceeds to misunderstand Harris's argument while also calling Harris's argument dumb. Again, Harris is arguing against interpersonal racism and for systemic racism. And then VAUSH plays the last Harris quote, takes Harris out of context, misrepresents Harris's argument, calls Harris an anti-intellectual, calls Harris a conservative, and once again asserts that Harris denies the existence of systemic racism. VAUSH consistently misrepresents Harris's argument and slings ad homs, and even when VAUSH is correct, he undermines his own argument by exaggerating things to the point of falsehood. How does VAUSH feel about this?
I think I'm comfortable from the section of this podcast that I've listened to in understanding Sam Harris's approach. In essence, he is very comfortable invoking the black rate of criminality without providing any explanation. He will dismiss evidence which does not favor his point, and then he will assign to these studies a correlative data point which was not backed by the researchers, which actually once more places the blame on black people.
This is a blatant lie. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad if VAUSH were merely misunderstanding an argument, but I think it's considerably worse.
Which actually once more places the blame on black people. Because that is what people like Sam Harris want to do. But I do know that his narrative here is one which perfectly suits the mentality of the American racist. It's every lazy, ad hoc, biased dismissal of the overwhelming evidence in favor of systemic racism in favor of an explanation which is at once non-explanatory and also very deeply suggestive of a biological problem with black people.
So disappointing, dude. Like, just taking these massive leaps to call people, like, genetic racists off of nothing. Feels bad, man.
They're rather fond of that, aren't they? I don't think I've argued with a conservative once who wasn't willing to at least suggest or imply a genetic explanation for black criminality. Okay, why is their culture the way it is? And they'll go,
it just hurts what we're doing. It hurts our, like, ability to move people to our side if we're going to be treating it like this. Because if we're going to be calling everybody who disagrees or who has a rhetorical strategy we don't like racists, then those people will be turned away from us and they will go to a more comforting side of political ideology that accepts anybody of any background, of any belief. So, like, they'll go to the right because the right doesn't care about any of the purity stuff.
I don't know. Why is there culture?
I mean, VAUSH doesn't like woke scolds, but this version of VAUSH basically was worse than one.
The way it is.
Or like
and
the same
without
thing.
falling back on sociological explanations for that question, the only remaining answer is one which they know they can't substantiate in academia, so they do not.
He literally said Sam Harris is perfect for the American racist and said he probably believes in a genetic explanation for crime. A genetic explanation for racism. That isn't good. That's a bad thing to do.
Not directly state a genetic explanation. Anyway, I don't want to appear as uncharitable to Sam Harris.
Yeah. Watch out for any time VAUSH claims to be doing a good thing. Watching 5% of a video, lying to your audience about its arguments, and then calling the person you're responding to a racist is not good faith engagement.
VAUSH didn't just call him a racist, though. He called him a racist to the extent of biological composition. That's totally different. That's worse than racism. Like, believing black people are genetically inferior is another level over racism as contemporarily understood in America today. Like, holy crap, bro. So like nonchalantly, just throwing it out there, dude. You probably believe in a genetic explanation. Like, oh my god, bro.
Do you think that's the end of the...
In general, people's ideologies, if you talk to like a conservative who doesn't like BLM, they don't have super thought out ideologies. They heard some shit on Fox News and now they believe it. So you have to be very delicate with deconstructing how they were taught. I saw the controversy. Okay. Oh no, not that one. Crap, I didn't see that one. Let me look that one up. I actually do want to see that one though. Sam has said some weird things, but not in that video, though. If VAUSH was making the claim, like, Sam Harris had said this before, that'd be different, but he didn't make that claim. He, like, watched the video and prescribed a lot of things that weren't really in the video that he reacted to. So that's a big issue. Even if, like, you can find Sam Harris saying something really questionable, when you're reacting to content, like, if I watch a VAUSH video of him, like, arguing for a point, and I use exterior clip of him without even bringing up that clip, without even citing it, and I just put that position onto him as I'm talking about it, I feel like that wouldn't work. It's just, like I said, it's not a good rhetorical tactic to get people on your side. I'm getting tired. I'm probably gonna log off soon. I might finish this a different day. I'm going to die. Thank you all for hanging out. Like usual. Thank you all for hanging out. It's a little late here, 4 a.m. I gotta go to bed. I'm really tired. I'm gonna fall apart. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I can barely feel my lips moving. But yeah, I know it's really old clips. I'm sorry. I'm dying. I'm falling apart. I cannot do any more react stuff. I'm just gonna keep on saying dumb stuff that I can't think about. I don't have the ability to think. I know what he's saying about VAUSH that is accurate because I've seen VAUSH do this as recently as his last stream. I watched his gaming stream earlier, and he said stuff like that in a bad way. Like he uses bad tactics to get people on his side. Like sometimes he is too quick to call somebody like an outright racist, white supremacist, or whatever. He should be taking his time to make claims like that because it hurts him. Even if he's really good at talking and everything and getting people to his side, if you start off from an unlikable position, you're not going to get more people on your side. You're just going to like preach to the choir. And I'm about like addition. So I want to add more people to the movement. So like, all right, I might talk to Tom real quick. Good night. Good night, everybody, though. Thank you for subscribing and liking and all the super chats. And for Kevin, thank you for becoming a member. 99 cents a month for anybody who wants to buy me coffee. I'll try to do like mini phone videos at my internship. No guarantees, though. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect at all. Listen to Donda. The Drake album sucked. Don't listen to the Drake album. Did it suck? Yeah. It's boring. You could probably find a couple songs that sound decent, but overall they're boring. Good night. Good night. Good night. Join the Discord. Join the Discord. Come chat in Discord. Very fun times in there. Yeah, everybody have a good sleep, you know. Who's still here? Who's still watching me sit here doing nothing? Stop being crazy. Later, Ranch Panda. Why isn't Tom answering? What the hell? Yep, see ya, see ya, see ya. See you in Discord. Everybody talks in general chat in Discord. You gotta go in there. Everybody's chatting in there. Not to, I mean, it's kind of late now, but get on that Discord. Do I gotta message this man? All right, shutting the stream down.